Chapter 1996. The three of them didn't say much and left hurriedly. Before leaving, he warned Wu Jueqing again and again. Don't run around. We will come and visit you at any time. Your cultivation is really too weak now. In this world, it's hard to find anyone weaker than you. The other brothers will definitely come and visit you when they know. Hurry up and cultivate. These are some elixirs to help with cultivation. These are some spiritual treasures to help with cultivation. We have to go back and inform the other brothers as soon as possible. Every moment counts, or the other brothers will also come here to seek confirmation from you. You must take care, second brother. Watching his brothers go back, Wu Jueqing took a deep breath and suppressed the bitterness in his heart. I really want to go and fight with you guys, but I can't drag you guys down. Brothers, wait for me. Wu Jueqing didn't reject the cultivation elixirs left behind by his brothers. In fact, he didn't even say anything courteous and accepted all of them. There was no need to be courteous when taking things from his brothers. If he were to be courteous with them, they would probably break his head the moment he said something courteous. Boss? All the brothers already know about your painstaking efforts back then. Wu Jueqing murmured. As long as there's a chance, we must grasp it and revive Boss. The brothers will shed all our blood to apologize to Boss. After a long silence, Wu Jueqing punched the hard and solid ground of the jade rock hard. This punch was completely self-torture. There was no defense at all. No cultivation at all. The ground didn't move, but Wu Jueqing's fist was immediately covered in blood. But he didn't stop. He continued to punch down, scolding angrily. What are you pretending to be cool for? Didn't you also scold Boss like this back then? You met your own brothers. Yet you speak so harshly and make such sarcastic remarks? You scolded them for being ungrateful, but what about you? What about you? What about you? How did you resent Boss back then? 40,000 years. Is your hatred any less than theirs? What are you scolding for? How can you have the face to do that? Ever since he knew the truth, the hatred and helplessness in his heart had accumulated for too long. He couldn't let it go. Every time he thought about it, it was like a heart-wrenching bite. He hated it. He hated the heavens, he hated himself even more. Why? And who could tell him why the heavens were so unfair? Why did good people have to suffer so many disasters? Faced with the hatred of his brothers, Wu Jueqing felt as though he had seen himself back then, the same disdain and resentment. Hot blood rushed to his head in an instant. He could no longer control himself. He only knew that he was filled with hatred and anger. He wanted to scold the idiots in front of him until they woke up. Bastard. They were brothers. More importantly, it was himself. He was in a trance as he cursed loudly. It was as if Boss was standing right beside him. Since Boss wasn't around, Wu Jueqing had to avenge Boss. Although Boss would never scold him like this even if he were here, Wu Jueqing could no longer control himself. One punch after another. Blood was flowing and his heart was in pain. No matter how much blood was shed, could it compare to Boss's blood and tears? No. Could he replace Boss's pain? His hands were already numb and he couldn't feel any pain at all. His white bones were already visible. Wu Jueqing suddenly felt as though all his strength had been sucked out of him. He sat down on the ground and stared blankly at the bright red blood flowing further and further away. A teardrop fell from the corner of his eye and merged into the pool of blood. Wu Jueqing said softly, as though he was smiling and crying at the same time, Wu Jueqing, you're not a good person either, ungrateful. You're just an ungrateful villain. At this moment, Wu Jueqing was just like a helpless child, squatting in a corner and hugging his knees, sobbing. I didn't cry when I couldn't find my brothers. But since I've already found my brothers, why should I cry? But I just can't help but feel my heart ache. Chuyang had once said, such a hero, even the heavens have to account for it. Wu Jueqing only remembered this sentence. Heroes never die. Even if there was no hope, one had to try his best to create hope. What's more, there was still a hope that, although faint, had once existed. Lone Bamboo City. Chuyang had already stayed here peacefully for 3 whole days. In these 3 days he had been collecting herbs like a nouveau riche. Of course, he had definitely collected them with different appearances. If he had only collected herbs with the same appearance, he would probably have been caught on the first day. The market wouldn't be willing to accept such a buyer or seller regardless of the price or cost. However, the situation was different since the 5 of them were separately collecting the medicines. Moreover, Chuyang would change his appearance and personally go out every day. This had changed the situation from maliciously snatching the medicines to a situation where the supply couldn't meet the demand. Although the end result was the same, the market's reaction was more normal. At least it wouldn't attract too much attention. However, the herbs market in Lone Bamboo City still inevitably became popular. Under the influence of supply and demand, even some herbs from the surrounding cities began to be transported here. Seeing this situation, Chu Yang decisively stopped collecting. On one hand, it might not be a good thing to cause too much of a commotion. On the other hand, he was running out of money. Before he left, Chu Yang had more than 1,000,000 purple cloud coins with him. However, herbs and elixirs that could quickly heal injuries and improve cultivation were naturally very expensive. That 1,000,000 purple cloud coins seemed like a lot, but when it was really needed, he knew that he couldn't stop spending them. In these few days, he had already spent about 70 to 80% of it. Now, the tribulation space was still in a sealed state. He didn't know when it would open again. He had to make more plans for the present. In these few days, Chu Yang would secretly go to the ancestral tomb of the demon race every night. He would find a secluded place to hide and cultivate. At the same time, the divine spirit hidden in Chu Yang's space ring silently flew into the ancestral tomb. The massive amount of heterogeneous death energy accumulated in the ancestral tomb over thousands of years was absorbed by the divine spirit just like that. Although the death energy in the ancestral tomb was heterogeneous and impure and its quality wasn't high, it had the advantage of being massive. The divine spirit first absorbed all of it, then removed the impurities bit by bit and purified it. In less than 3 days, the tribulation divine soul had recovered a little. Although it was still far from its peak, the tribulation divine soul was already very satisfied. That day, the destruction of wind and thunder was the perfect counter to his calamity. His divine soul had almost been completely destroyed. Compared to Meng Wuya, the divine spirit suffered much more serious injuries. However, in terms of its current state of recovery, the divine spirit was definitely recovering faster than Meng Wuya. Firstly, the divine spirit's physique was special. It was almost immortal. Although the injury was serious, it didn't actually harm its origin. As long as there was enough death energy, recovery was only a matter of time. Secondly, even though Meng Wuya was seriously injured, he still didn't want to rest. He was always chasing Chu Yang and mediating with people from all sides. There were many unforeseen events during this time. He suffered many setbacks and witnessed a large number of casualties. His injuries only became more and more serious. Unlike the divine spirit hid with Chu Yang to focus on healing. One had a lot of things to do while the other had no distractions. The difference in environment between the two was completely immeasurable. In addition, there was another key point. Along the way, the divine spirit not only absorbed a large amount of death energy from the dead on both sides, but also absorbed a lot of pure death energy that originated from Chu Yang but wasn't completely absorbed by Chu Yang. Chu Yang's cultivation had reached a higher level, reaching the level of heavenly being. The efficiency of the layered heaven divine technique was naturally sharper and stronger, and its ability to absorb the world's spiritual energy had also improved. The origin energy transformed by the layered heaven divine technique was almost equivalent to the origin and purest energy of this origin energy. In terms of pure death energy, even an old monster like the divine spirit who had cultivated for hundreds of thousands of years like the divine spirit couldn't compare to Chu Yang in terms of purity. However, because there was still a considerable gap between the cultivation of the two, under normal circumstances, Chu Yang wouldn't be unable to absorb it in time and would overflow. Even if it did, the divine spirit might not care about it. However, the current situation was indeed very special. On one hand, Chu Yang was enduring the cleansing of a large amount of pure spiritual energy from the tribulation space at every moment. The divine spirit's own absorption of the world's spiritual energy was inevitably overflowing. Although the divine spirit's injuries had healed a little, it still needed pure death energy to further nourish its origin. The amount of death energy that Chu Yang overflowed was not large, but the quality was extremely high. These two were a perfect combination. The day when the divine spirit's recovery was really looking forward to. Mo Yuntian's people had now entered the demon emperor heaven. There were even people who came to Lone Bamboo City a few days ago. However, after searching around, they didn't find anything unusual. In addition, this place wasn't far from the core of the demon emperor heaven. Naturally, the people who came didn't dare to rashly offend. Without any harvest, they quickly retreated. Chu Yang seized the time to quickly collect the medicinal herbs and put them into medicine. In these few days, everyone was recuperating and cultivating. Everything was very peaceful. However, Chu Yang knew that such peace wouldn't last for long. The peace now was just a facade before the storm. And at this time, there was a youth in white, walking over with a frown on his face. Chu Yang? Where did this Chu Yang come from? The youth in white frowned with a conflicted face. I already said that he came here to seek refuge. What's the point of giving me this portrait? Why would he appear in the Demon Emperor heaven with his real face? Unless his brain is fried. As for why this person is like this, it's as if he's been gang raped a few hundred times. Although his human face is really unpresentable, since he can do such a thing, you can't judge a book by its cover. The youth in white was holding the portrait that Chu Yang used to register his residence. With a frown on his face and a grimace, it was as if he was gang raped by 300 strong men. First update. Second update is a little late. Later I'll have a gathering with my brothers from Tieba on YY. Tonight I'll work overtime to write the second update. If you can't wait, you can read it tomorrow. Chapter 1997. This is really like looking for a needle in a haystack. The young man in white looked up at the sky and sighed. I wonder how Sister Z is doing now. Sigh, although I wasn't allowed to enter the palace that day, I was at least 3 steps closer to her. It was the best time to follow up on my victory, but I was called back by my mother at this juncture and was given such a strange task. This is really too much. What could be more important than finding a daughter-in-law for you? I don't understand, I really don't understand. P.C.O.M. Beside him there were 2 thin old men. As they listened to the young man in white's nagging, the 2 old men's faces were as red as dates and they didn't say a word. If this young man was their grandnephew or something. Based on his ability to talk for 10,000 miles, they would have strangled him to death long ago. This old man's ears are full of calluses now. But this young man's identity. The situation was more important than the person, so they had to bear with it. How could they not? Uncle Hu, how many cities have we searched so far? The young man in white turned around and asked. Cough 1, Uncle Hu replied. He felt helpless. My surname isn't Hu. My surname is Gao, okay? You can't call me Uncle Hu just because I'm from the Fox clan. The old men didn't change their surnames, they didn't even change their names. Now that they were old, they had to let a kid change their surname. What the hell was going on? No, he didn't dare to say that. It was a slip of the tongue. Already 1, and they were all quiet cities. I just don't understand, why would such a powerful person choose to stay in a quiet city? The young man in white started nagging again. I think he should be in the capital or in some place where earth-shattering things could happen. How am I supposed to find him? This is really killing me. The 2 old men's faces were as red as dates and they continued to remain silent. This old man was a chatterbox. It was no wonder. He had been lying in bed for thousands of years. His mind was clear but he couldn't speak. Now that he had woken up, it was understandable that he became a chatterbox. But the problem was, the 2 of them were the ones accompanying this chatterbox. There was no end to this torment. You called for help? We haven't even called for help yet. If you said 1 sentence, he would immediately talk to you for 4 hours based on your meaningless sentence. Along the way, the 2 of them had already made up their minds. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they would absolutely not speak to him. Uncle Hu, what city is up ahead? The white-clothed youth asked with great interest. Lone Bamboo City. Uncle Hu's answer was concise and comprehensive. He would not say more than 1 word if he could. Yes. Luohua City was just a little further south from Lone Bamboo City. It's really not that far away. Regardless of whether we can find it or not, we can't find it. How about we all settle down in Lone Bamboo City? The Grand Elder was in high spirits and seemed to be very interested. The 2 old men looked troubled. The mission given by the Demon Empress was a death order. It was abnormally strict and serious, and now you actually said it. She had become so indifferent. He really didn't know what to do. Something really happened. You are the son of the Demon Empress. Even if you were to be punished, it would just be for show. What about us? Uncle Hu. Look, isn't this place very close to Luohua City? The Grand Elder begged, although my mother has made it clear that I can't go to Luohua City, but I'll be fine in Lone Bamboo City, right? After all, it's 2 different places. If we have nothing to do, we can still stroll around casually, right? Maybe we can meet Miss Z when we stroll around. I believe that we are destined to be together. Maybe if we suddenly meet, Miss Z will realize that this is fate? It's fate that belongs to the 2 of us. Maybe she will secretly fall in love with me from then on. Then I will have a chance, right? So I can go home with the beauty? The Grand Elder's saliva was everywhere. He was daydreaming for a while, as if it had already become a reality. The 2 old men were speechless. They lowered their heads and didn't say anything. They wailed inwardly, God, Earth, help. Our Grand Elder is going crazy again. It's only been 3 days. He had already made such hypotheses thousands of times. God. Our Grand Elder was hopelessly infatuated. Was it useful to declare victory unilaterally? Uncle Ma, please introduce this lone bamboo city to me. The Grand Elder finally changed the topic. My surname is not Ma. Uncle Ma said with a straight face. Grand Elder, my surname is Chiu, not Ma. I know. I heard from my mother that you were born in autumn, so your surname is Chiu. But you're from the horse tribe, right? Besides, you can choose the time of your birth. If you were born a few months later, your surname would be Dong, right? But your origin and your tribe can't be changed, right? The Grand Elder said eloquently. Tell me what's wrong with me calling you Uncle Ma. It's a perfect match. Uncle Ma looked helpless. He wanted to argue but couldn't. Facing such an unreliable Grand Elder, even if he had a talent for arguing, he could only be speechless. Uncle who looked at him sympathetically. Uncle Ma raised his hands and surrendered. Okay, you can call me Uncle Ma from now on. If he still didn't agree, the Grand Elder would start the lesson immediately and force him to admit that he was Uncle Ma. That would be a long and cruel process. It would be worse than torture. Since he had to accept it in the end, he might as well let his ears suffer less. Then please tell me about this lone bamboo city. The Grand Elder was very interested, especially the history of Lone Bamboo City. If I can't complete a mission in the future, I can tell my mother clearly. It will prove that I did work hard and did not do nothing. The two of them were speechless at the same time. You worked hard? When did you work hard? Don't you dare insult the word hard. Ever since a certain Grand Elder said that he had no ambition and ignored the Demon Empress orders, the two super experts of the demon race were completely discouraged. It seemed that they had no choice but to be discouraged. Following such an unreliable Grand Elder, even if you were a saint, what could you do? So the three of them suddenly slowed down and staggered all the way into Lone Bamboo City. It was as if an excited Gongzi was leading two walking corpses. The two of them were angry. God, let me die. Not only did I have nothing to do, but I also had to bear a chatterbox. Not only did he have to talk, he even changed his surname. They wandered around the city for half a day. The Grand Elder said that he was close to the people. Observe the local customs. The two masters almost hit the wall. This is not your mission. Your mission is to find Chu Yang. After a while, the Grand Elder had enough of the local customs. After being pointed at and scolded for flirting with a girl, he decided to find an inn near the north gate. The people here are not cute, the Grand Elder said. The two masters only felt that their balls were cramping. You flirted with someone's wife in front of her husband? It was already good that we did not beat you up on the spot. When the Grand Elder went out, he would definitely stay in the most luxurious hotel in the city. He would not choose the right one. He would only choose the expensive one. The expensive one might not be the right one, but it would definitely not be the worst one. Although he was not officially going out with his identity. The main purpose was to complete the mission, but the Grand Elder could not lose his status, no matter the time. The best suite. The Grand Elder said to the inn indifferently and matter-of-factly, I want the highest and biggest one here. The inn worker had a difficult look on his face. Dear guest, please forgive me. The room you specified is already occupied. Why don't you? The Grand Elder was startled. Before he could say anything, Uncle Ma, who had been holding back his anger, said, Ask the person staying in there to get out. Immediately clean it up and make room for us. As soon as he said that, he heard someone say softly on the tip of his tongue, Hey, what's wrong? Chasing a girl and flirting with a girl are all about first come first served. What's wrong? Now that he is staying in an inn, you want to kick him out and make room for you? Do you still care about the justice of the martial world? Is this the justice of the world? TSK, Demon Emperor Heaven is indeed Demon Emperor Heaven. This Grand Elder has seen it for himself this time. Awesome, really awesome. I didn't think that there would be someone more awesome than Old Man in this world. This person kept saying Old Man. Completely undisguised sarcasm and ridicule, mixed with a strong sense of provocation. It even revealed a roguish tone. The three people turned their heads at the same time, following the voice. But in the next moment they were all startled. They saw a person standing at the top of the stairs. His two hands were crossed and he was looking at them with slanted eyes. From the way he spoke just now, it was clear that this person was definitely a hooligan. It wasn't surprising for him to behave like this. What was more surprising, or rather special, was that this person's appearance was really a little weird. One of his eyes was big while the other was small. One of his eyes was round while the other was triangular. One of his ears was long forward while the other was long backward. His entire face looked as if it had been punched by the Creator after he was created. Then he carelessly rubbed his face. Although he could still barely make out the appearance of a human, it was really a little forced. Even his 2 eyebrows were inverted. Also, this person's voice was extremely strange. It was like a pack of wolves howling in the dark night, mixed with a group of male ducks. The Grand Elder was clearly frightened by this person's appearance. He asked in horror, "What kind of monster are you?" "A little late, sorry." Chapter 1998. That person walked down the stairs, swaying his shoulders. He raised his head, his nostrils facing the sky, and gently blew at the nose hair that floated out of his nostrils. When the nose hair was blown away, this person swung his hair, and with a schwa sound, his messy hair was thrown to one side. "PTX. I'm the guest who's staying in the Sky Room 1 now." This person squinted. "In other words, I'm the one you want to chase out." As he said that, his whole body twitched and his buttocks contracted. "Am I very handsome? When you looked at me like that just now, were you shocked by my appearance?" He. Master Tai's eyes widened, and he suddenly felt that his mind was blank. "Although I was indeed shocked by your appearance, and the result was undeniable, the difference between the two was too great. It was like the difference between heaven and earth." As the master of the entire demon clan, he could be considered as an experienced and knowledgeable senior figure. Moreover, in the entire heavenly layer, the demon clan's grotesque appearance was definitely at the top. But even so, he would never have thought that there would be someone in this world who looked so weird. Even in his dreams, he would never have thought that words like, "Am I very handsome? Are you shocked by my appearance?" could actually come out from the mouth of this monster in front of him. Where was his conscience? With this kind of conduct, you still have the nerve to ask me where my morals are? Where's the justice? After being stunned for a long time, Master Tai suddenly flew into a rage. In that instant, he actually forgot that the other party didn't want to let him in the room. He pointed at him furiously and shouted, You said this, do you have any conscience? You asked this, don't you feel guilty?" Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma, who were about to get angry, almost fainted when they heard this. The other party's question was undoubtedly beyond common sense, but Master Tai's answer seemed to be even more unexpected. Appearing and disappearing unpredictably. The conflict that should have happened immediately was diverted by the other party's words. And it was diverted to a completely unrelated place. And Master Tai's words were so easy to divert. He just went along with it and didn't even look back. Of course, he also had to be on guard against the sudden counterattack of this strange fellow. It was basically a foregone conclusion that he would fly into a rage out of humiliation. Unexpectedly, when the strange man heard this, he suddenly seemed very pleased with himself and said, "You knew my wife when you were young?" The old master was confused again. What was going on? He scratched his head subconsciously and asked, "Do I know your wife?" He thought, is this person crazy? This person was beaming with joy. His 2 eyebrows were like 2 earthworms twitching and jumping on his face. It was extremely frightening. He laughed and said in a clear voice, "When my wife saw me back then, the first thing she said was the same thing. What you said just now actually made me experience the taste of love again." "Thank you." The taste of love. Grandpa Lin felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He was so shocked that he was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. "Did I let you taste the taste of love?" Heavens, back then. That little girl wasted a lot of my effort. Just thinking about it makes me sigh. The strange man reminisced. This guy, after such a thing, actually fell into a reverie of the past. What was even more ridiculous was that a certain old master actually felt a burst of sympathy at this moment. He thought of how difficult it was for him to chase a girl. He couldn't help but nod and feel the same. Yes, chasing a girl is really too difficult. As long as you can have the last laugh, any price is worth it. A girl, a girl? The strange man's face showed some nostalgia and also seemed to be sad. A girl, a girl, a girl. Grandpa Lin sighed and was really sad. For a moment, Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma looked at each other in shock. Shouldn't these 2 people be fighting for the room? Under normal circumstances, the process would be, one insisted on staying. The other didn't give way and the 2 of them would fight. Then, if they fought until someone died, it would be normal for the head to bleed, right? Why are they chatting like they know each other so well now? What was going on? How could this be? However, these 2 people were talking one after another. Neither of them seemed to understand what the other party was talking about, but they felt that what the other party said was very similar to their own experiences. The more they talked, the warmer they became. The more they talked, the more they regretted not meeting each other earlier. Brother. We hit it off at first sight. I'll treat you to a drink, you must give me some face. Grandpa Lin waved his hand generously. I definitely can't give you this face. The strange man glared and waved his hand generously. Unless it's my treat. Haha, good good good. The two of them laughed heartily. Then the strange man laughed and walked over. He actually put his arm around the old man's shoulder like a good brother. The old man was not on guard and was hugged by the other party. The two of them had their arms around each other's shoulders. As they talked heatedly, they found a table and sat down. Then the two of them began to bang on the table and shout, asking for wine and dishes. Waiter. Serve the wine. I want good wine. The strange man banged on the table. Waiter, serve the dishes. I want good dishes. Grandpa Lin banged on the table. Hurry up. Don't dawdle. The strange man raised his head and shouted. If you dawdle, I'll tear down your restaurant. Grandpa Lin said fiercely. Hurry up. Don't be so insensible. The two of them shouted together. They were like two hooligans. Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma felt their eyeballs hit the ground at the same time. Fuck. How could this be? What was going on? How could it be like this? The two of them walked over like puppets and looked at the two people sitting opposite them. They were talking about something with exultation. The two of them sat down mechanically, completely speechless. Under such urging, how could the restaurant dare to be negligent? Not long after, the wine and dishes were all served. He saw that the two people opposite him were in high spirits, their saliva flying in all directions. There was no need to mention the opportunistic spirit of exchanging toasts. However, as they talked, the situation changed. It became that strange man talking alone, while Grandpa Lin listened attentively and listened attentively. So, I killed that strange man and took out the spiritual beast core and gave it to her. Aha, she had a crush on me. Then, her brother didn't agree to our relationship. I was furious. How dare you interfere with my relationship with my wife? How could you do that? That strange man's saliva flew everywhere as he spoke. He was in high spirits, insufferably arrogant. Grandpa Lin watched and listened enviously. Because in the end, the other party got her. Just this point alone is already much, much stronger than me. Much, much, much stronger. Women. That strange man felt the other party's admiration and envy, as well as some jealousy. He became even more complacent. My wife looked very fierce at first, but later on she fell into my hands. In my hands she's as gentle as water. Of course this gentleness is only for me. Ah. Grandpa Lin raised the wine pot. He poured the wine eagerly with a face full of admiration. Amazing, amazing. I admire you. Let's drink, let's drink. Ha ha ha. That strange man laughed. Suddenly he rolled his eyes and said, Sigh. I seem to have neglected a very important thing. The three of them looked at him at the same time. Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma were nervous at the same time. Did this guy remember to fight for the room at this time? However, they saw that this person patted his head and said with realization, We hit it off at first sight. I actually forgot to ask. Brother, what's your name? Although in the heart, name is just a code name, but it's still better to know this code name. Grandpa Lin also patted his head. Yes, yes, yes. I was too engrossed in listening to you. It's really rude of me. I haven't asked your name yet. The two of them actually laughed awkwardly at the same time, as if they were a little embarrassed. The same action, scratching their heads. As they scratched, they laughed awkwardly. Hee, puff, puff. The two super masters next to them fell under the chairs at the same time. Obviously it was not enough. They could only actually crawl under the table. Fuck, there was actually such a weirdo in this world. After putting their arms around each other's shoulders for so long, drinking more than 10 kilograms of wine, being so intimate as if they were wearing the same pants, they actually only remembered to ask each other's names now, and both of them were. Could this be the legendary saying, that if they were not of the same family they would not enter the same house? This pair of birds of a feather was really not just a little bit. There were already too many weirdos like this, but there were actually two of them. And they were so lucky to be at the same table. This was really a lucky chance. The two masters sighed endlessly in their hearts. The two of them were actually able to witness this meeting. It was really the good fortune of 3 lifetimes. My name is Yao Ningning. May I ask for your name? Grandpa Lin directly said his real name, and the two masters did not even have time to stop him. My Grandpa Lin, this Yao Ningning, was the name of Demon Emperor Heaven. Who in the entire Demon Emperor Heaven did not know? There would definitely not be a repeat of this situation. If it was a normal person perhaps they would not know, but this guy had a tyrannical aura. He was obviously a person of the pugilistic world. How could he not know his name? Now that he knew who you were, he could not help but try to worm his way into being friends with you. Just look at how much we worship this guy's theory of picking up girls. Wouldn't he give you whatever you want? Grandpa Lin, you are too. You said you wanted to make friends, that's not a problem. But you have already revealed your identity, how are you going to make friends? Just wait for the other party to kowtow to you. Unexpectedly that weirdo laughed, his eyebrows dancing. Yao Ningning? Is it a girl and a Yao of that name? Brother, I have to say your name is a little unsuitable. It sounds like the name of a girl. Too. He actually started to criticize. The two masters looked at each other, stunned. This weirdo actually did not know that this was Grandpa's name? Who said it wasn't? Grandpa Lin slapped his thigh as if he had met a confidant and said, I thought so too, but my mother refused to change it for me. I wanted to change my name, but I was scolded and beaten by my mother. You don't even know, Sai, it's a long story. Your mother is so awesome. You even have a mother to discipline you. That weirdo said with a little envy. The two masters of the demon race looked at each other, dumbfounded. They lowered their heads at the same time and drank their tea with a speechless expression. Weirdo. Definitely a super weirdo. Your mother is so awesome? Sai, his mother was the demon empress. How could the demon empress not be awesome? Chapter 1999. Sai, just mentioning my name makes me cry. Yao Ningning sighed. My mother and a few elders don't call me Ningning. Although Ningning is too feminine, it's still nicer than Ning. Originally from P, Master Tai wanted to cry. But they all call me Ning. They all say that I'm very stupid. Tell me, am I stupid? You say, am I stupid, am I stupid? This is really unreasonable. The weirdo opposite felt the same. Although you look a little stupid, you're actually not stupid. I can guarantee that. Master Tai was so grateful that he actually choked. You're really a good person. Only you can see that I'm not stupid in this world. The two experts lowered their heads, their faces full of black lines. That's because he's stupid too. Sai, the two greatest idiots in the world are gathered together to talk about being stupid. Can this be any weirder? But my Yao is not the Yao you're talking about. Master Tai Yao Ningning had just said that when Uncle Hu pinched Yao Ningning. He hurriedly realized and corrected himself. Yes. It's the Yao you're talking about. Why are you talking so incoherently? This is not good. A man's words should be like the wind. Once a word is said, it's powerful and resonant. The weirdo looked at him with dissatisfaction. Master Tai smiled apologetically, feeling that he was in the wrong. Thank you for your guidance, brother. May I ask what's your name? The strange man coughed and raised his head in an insufferably arrogant manner. If you want to talk about my name, it's really famous, like thunder piercing the ears, like the bright moon in the sky. Yao Ningning said fervently, that's for sure. Although I haven't seen you before, just based on your knowledge and experience, I can tell that you're definitely not an ordinary person. I've definitely heard of your great name. There's no doubt about it. That's for sure. My name has once shaken the entire heavenly layer. The weirdo was full of confidence. Brother, let me remind you, sit tight. Don't be scared when you hear my name later. Yao Ningning subconsciously puffed out his chest. Say it, I'm prepared. I'm mentally prepared. Even if I'm surprised, I won't be scared. Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma turned their heads away at the same time. They could not bear to watch any longer. The scene in front of him was too horrible to look at. What was this? In the entire Heaven Valley, there were only a few people who were truly at the top. Could this fellow be more famous than Di and Empress? How dare he claim to have shaken the entire Heaven Palace? This was clearly a waste of effort. He's raising his status, but why does our madam look so convinced? The other party hadn't even said anything yet, and he had already expressed his trust in him. With this level of intelligence, he dared to argue that he wasn't stupid at all. You're really stupid to the extreme. Brother, listen carefully. My name is Tan Tan. Tan Tan is me. I am Tan Tan. There was no doubt that this strange man was Tan Tan. He raised his nostrils and said, have you heard of me? Like thunder in the ear, the bright moon in the sky. Tan Tan had been practicing martial arts arduously ever since he had come up. He had also been trying his best to rob people. So he hadn't made many friends. But it was rare for him to find someone who admired him so much today. There was even a slight trend of him becoming an idol. This was the first time Tan Tan had met a good person, who could talk to him so sincerely. In his excitement he couldn't help but say a few more words. In the end he saw that this fellow was actually stunned by his words. Such a stupid person was really rare. If he didn't boast a little more he would be letting down his vanity. Usually when he was with Chu Yang and the rest he didn't speak much. Those guys would just cover their ears and leave. This fellow in front of him was still the best. He actually didn't run away, then he would let go, open up and break through all obstacles. Let's talk about it later. What Tan Tan said wasn't too far-fetched. Back in the Heaven Valley. Other than Chu Yang, his cultivation was indeed very rare. Even Ning Qinya and Wu Jueqing might not be able to beat him. It could be said that his name was definitely in the top 3 of the Heaven Valley. He was indeed a big shot who had once shaken the Heaven Valley. However, this was ultimately not the Heaven Valley but the Heaven Valley. So, naturally of course there was definitely no one who knew about Tan Tan. On the other side, Grandpa Yao Ningning was also in the same situation. Back then he was forced to practice martial arts when he was young and didn't have any contact with the Jianghu. Once he went out, he met Zi Xiecheng and was shocked by her beauty. Then he naturally wanted to take her into his harem. However, he was lured to a dangerous place. Under a sneak attack he was bedridden for thousands of years. After he came out he immediately went to pick up girls. He didn't have many friends in his life. Besides, his status was too high. Others didn't dare to casually make friends with him. Meeting Tan Tan today was the first time in his life that he had such a congenial conversation with someone. So, 1,000 cups were not enough to drink with a bosom friend. But now Grandpa Yao was stunned. Yao Ningning's face was a little blank. To be honest, Grandpa Yao was really prepared just now. He was prepared to express his admiration after hearing the name of this expert. Words like, "I've heard of your name for a long time, and it's my honor to meet you today," were already in his throat. As long as the other party said his name, as long as he had the slightest impression of him, he would go on and on. But, why was this name so unfamiliar? It seemed that he had never heard of it before? Could it be that he was too ignorant and inexperienced? He rarely walked the Jianghu, so he didn't know that there was such a big shot whose name shook the world. He turned his head to look at the 2 demon experts. The 2 of them shook their heads at the same time. Logically speaking, there was no reason for them not to know an expert whose name could shake the entire Heaven Imperial Court. But this Tan Tan, who exactly was he? What? Could it be that you haven't heard of me? You're too ignorant and inexperienced. Tan Tan looked at Yao Ningning unhappily. He was a little discouraged. Damn it. It was so rare for him to show his trump card to others, but he actually met someone who didn't know what was good for him. Young Master Tan suddenly felt dull. He also felt a little embarrassed. It hurt his pride too much. Yao Ningning looked embarrassed. Well, it's probably because I'm often at home and rarely walk the Jianghu. So, I'm ignorant and inexperienced. Forget it. One look and I can tell that you're ignorant. Tan Tan snorted and said with a nasal voice, "Seeing that you have to bring 2 bodyguards when you go out, I know that you don't have much experience in the Jianghu. A real man travels the world alone, repaying kindness and revenge quickly. Just like me. Only then can you live freely and happily. Bringing bodyguards when you go out is like a child bringing a nanny when he goes out. Let's not talk about whether there are restrictions or not. In terms of momentum, you're a coward." Tan Tan shook his head. "I can't say that you're a coward. Besides, we hit it off at first sight, so I'm embarrassed to say that you're a coward. But if I don't say that you're a coward, I'll be letting my conscience down." Just because the other party didn't know his name, he turned from a brother to a coward in the blink of an eye. The 2 experts at the side stared at each other. "You haven't said that we're a coward? You've said it 8 fucking times. And you still have the face to say, I didn't say that you're a coward? I actually left you some face. Where did you leave this face?" Yao Ningning's face instantly turned red. He panted heavily and his eyes were wide open. The 2 experts were gratified. Master finally knows how to get angry. That's right. If it was someone else who was pointed at and called a coward, who wouldn't be able to stand it? It was natural for Master to get angry. The 2 of them were ready. They were just waiting for Master to get angry and kill this guy with their palms. Master panted a few times with a red face. Suddenly, he turned his head and threw a tantrum at the 2 of them. "I told you not to follow me. Look, I'm being looked down upon. It's all because of you that I've become a coward in the eyes of my friends." As he spoke, he felt extremely wronged. If it weren't for you following me, would I have become a coward? The 2 senior experts of the demon race felt as if they were struck by lightning. They stared at Master and couldn't wrap their heads around it for a moment. "You're really my father. This isn't what you should be angry about, right? Why, what are you looking at? I'm telling the 2 of you, don't follow me anymore. Yao Ningning said angrily, I also want to travel thousands of miles alone in the martial world and settle my grudges to my heart's content. In an instant, the two experts of the demon race looked at Tan Tan as if they were going to swallow him alive. They really wanted to strangle this ugly guy in front of them to death immediately. Look at what kind of trouble you've caused. Do you know what you're doing? Yes. This is delightful. Tan Tan cheered loudly. Facing the dangers of the martial world alone. Fighting in a moment of life and death, trekking through thousands of mountains and rivers, seeing the rise and fall of the world, admiring the beauties of the world, killing those who deserve to be killed, admiring the 10 great sceneries of the world, making friends from all over the world. Isn't this delightful? Tan Tan looked up to the sky and roared. If life is like this, isn't it delightful? Yao Ningning's blood instantly boiled. He also let out a long roar. He only felt that his chest was full of pride, as if he had already galloped the martial world and trampled the world. He couldn't help but stand up and shout, that's right. Isn't it delightful to roam the martial world like this and travel to your heart's content? I've decided. I want to roam the martial world alone. I want to build an immortal achievement. I want my name to be known for thousands of years. I want to kill recklessly in mountains of corpses and seas of blood. I want to wander happily in the reincarnation of life and death. I want to rise proudly in the midst of love and hate. I want to go back and forth between mountains of swords and mountains of blades. Yao Ningning shouted loudly, inexplicably excited. Now the two experts of the demon race looked at Tan Tan with more and more unfriendly eyes. They already wanted to cut this guy into pieces. What kind of status do you have? You actually want to risk your life in the martial world just because of a few words from you? It's over? It's really over this time. Good. Well said. Tan Tan cheered loudly. This is what a hero should do. Which beauty in the world doesn't like such a man? When Yao Ningning heard the words beauty likes, his eyes lit up even more. Good. I've decided. I support you. Tan Tan clapped his hands and cheered. This is the true nature of a man with iron blood, a hero. Chapter 2000. The two elders of the demon race really couldn't stand it anymore. If this goes on, our great master will definitely be abducted and sold. Who knows what kind of person this guy is? Just look at him. He's not a good person. No matter how you look at him, he looks like a scammer. Our great master is a noob, and a super noob with zero experience in Jianghu. What should we do? Save us? The two elders' hearts were actually filled with these 3 words. May I ask who you are? Uncle, who had already confirmed that the other party was a super noob, and most likely a scammer. However, he couldn't deny it now. What's your motive for seducing our great master like this? You're asking who I am? Didn't I say that I'm Tan Tan? Your great master is young and he doesn't roam Jianghu often. It's fine if you don't know me, but you two don't look like nameless people. How can you ask such a question without common sense? Tan Tan was suddenly startled. Then he said, what did you just say? Seduce? He pointed at Yao Ningning and suddenly burst into laughter. Your shallow experience is your own business, but you can't talk nonsense. Do you think he's a beauty? Seduce? Ah. Uncle, who didn't have time to say anything. Yao Ningning had already stood up with righteous indignation. Uncle who, what are you talking about? Brother Tan, you're a real man who's open and aboveboard at first glance. How is this seducing me? Besides, am I the kind of person who can be seduced so easily? Am I that stupid? I haven't gone out for a long time, so it's understandable that I lack Jianghu experience. You two always boast about your rich Jianghu experience in front of me. How can you say such amateurish words at this time? I feel ashamed for you too. Uncle Ma was about to refute, but he was stopped by Great Master. You also shut up. Unspecified currency. Unspecified currency, I don't want to hear your voices again. Please don't disgrace me. The two of them were tongue-tied and speechless, completely at a loss of what to do. My dear Great Master, I didn't expect you to be so stupid. Brother Tan, don't let them spoil our mood. Come, let's continue drinking. The two of us are going to roam the Jianghu. I know that I'm not experienced enough, so I'll have to rely on Brother Tan to take care of me. Yao Ningning passionately urged him to drink. His attitude was so humble. The two uncles at the side felt their hair stand on end as they looked at the entire Heaven Valley. My Empress Dowager couldn't possibly be so respectful to anyone. Even to the Demon Empress herself, she was fearful and frightened, but she wasn't respectful at all. Tan Tan squinted his eyes. It's not impossible for you to wander the Jianghu with me. I'll certainly protect you. But what is your cultivation level now? Don't fucking take 2 steps and you'll be dead. Yao Ningning was furious and said, I'm only 1 step away from breaking through to the Deva realm. Is this cultivation enough? What? Fuck you. Tan Tan was gobsmacked. Her eyes were wide open. Your cultivation level is so high, you little gigolo? Motherfucker, you really don't show your true colors. Tan Tan hadn't expected that this idiot's cultivation would be higher than his. Motherfucker. He had always worked so hard that he even went to the official heavenly treasury to rob. Only then did he manage to scrape together some treasures to raise his cultivation level rapidly. Not long ago, he coincidentally obtained the yin-yang fish, which raised his cultivation level to the saint level. The speed of his cultivation advancement could be said to be unprecedented. Just as he was feeling complacent, he hadn't expected that he would randomly meet a guy who was obviously lacking in brains on the road, whose cultivation level was actually higher than his. Could it be that the heavens didn't have eyes? How could such a situation occur? Uncle Hu and Uncle Ma's anger rose again. They couldn't wait to chop Tan Tan into meat paste on the spot, crush him and scatter his ashes. You fucking bastard. You really know how to curse. Just a casual curse, and you directly cursed the 2 pinnacle figures of the Demon Emperor Heaven. Fuck your grandfather? Who was Yao Ningning's grandfather? He was a super figure that even the Demon Empress had to call Big Brother. As for fucking you, it was even more of a bastard. Who was Yao Ningning's mother? Her Majesty the Demon Empress. When Yao Ningning first heard this, she was more or less uncomfortable. But when she heard the last sentence, a wise man doesn't show his true colors, her anger immediately turned into joy. After being scolded, she was actually proud and high-spirited. You're just making a fuss because you've seen too little. I have a lot of trump cards. Even a celestial being expert may not be my number one. Tan Tan was even more surprised. Really? You're not bragging, right? How on earth did you cultivate, little one? How can you have such a high cultivation level? The Demon Empress suddenly had a feeling of exultation. So there's also a day when I'm worshipped by others. The heavens pity me. This is really too rare. What's the big deal? It's nothing but hard work. Yes, hard work. Hard work. I wake up early and sleep late, and cultivate continuously until my hands are blistered. Yao Ningning boasted shamelessly, blowing his own trumpet. He really couldn't find any evidence, so he could only make up some nonsense. The 2 senior experts of the demon race lowered their heads sadly. Hard work, wake up early and sleep late, blisters on my hands, I really can't listen to it anymore. None of these words seem to have anything to do with the Demon Empress. Stop bragging, the sky is full of dust. Tan Tan couldn't hide the envy on his face anymore. He said, in martial arts cultivation, the one who reaches the top first. I've cultivated for more than 20 years, but I'm only at the saint level and I'm still so proud of it. Asai, I've suffered a blow. Let's not talk about it. Cultivated for more than 20 years. Saint level. Yao Ningning was also shocked when he heard this. For him to be able to get to where he was now, he knew what kind of prerequisites he had. The value of those treasures he had used over the years was enough to pile up a peak celestial being expert. It was also because he didn't know what hard work was. With so many good materials on him, he could barely pile up a peak saint level. But the one in front of him was clearly a grassroot. He had actually reached the saint level. He was a real genius. Although there was a difference in the cultivation of the 2, in fact, there wasn't much of a difference. So, the following conversation became more congenial. Compared to Yao Ningning, who was shocked, the 2 demon clan elders were shocked. They really didn't see that this little guy was really not simple. He had only cultivated for more than 20 years, and he had already reached the saint level. It was rare and commendable. The vision of these 2 demon clan elders was extraordinary. They had already seen through Tan Tan's real situation. But at this moment, when they suddenly heard Tan Tan's age, they couldn't help but observe carefully again. They judged from Tan Tan's bone age. This little guy was at most in his early 20s. Moreover, he was an outsider, not a disciple of a super sect. Under such conditions, it was really rare and commendable to have such a cultivation. So, the disgust they felt towards Tan Tan was not so strong. In fact, they even found him slightly more pleasing to the eye. Unfortunately, this pleasing to the eye didn't even last for a moment. Because the next topic of conversation made the 2 demon clan elders have the impulse to run away. You don't know my mother. My mother is too strict with me. Hey, you said that I went to chase women. I want to pick up girls. Aren't these proper things? This is a big matter related to the continuation of the bloodline of our descendants. But my mother just ordered me to come back. She wanted me to find a man. Yao Ningning sighed. Find a man? Your mother is really outrageous. To be honest, what do women know? They have long hair and short knowledge. Tan Tan was disdainful. But I have to say that your mother is really good at talking. Yao Ningning slapped his thigh. Who said she wasn't? Whatever I said, she vetoed it. Whatever I wanted to do, she definitely wouldn't let me do it. Even my food and drink. She wanted to control it. I didn't have any freedom at all. Is your mother sick? Although it's not nice to hear, I have heard of a disease called obsessive-compulsive disorder before. It's very similar to what you said. Tan Tan disagreed. Uncle Ma and Uncle Hu expressed that they really couldn't stand it anymore. If anyone knew that the outrageous and insane woman these two bastards were talking about was the current demon empress, then the biggest joke in the Heaven Imperial Court would be born. Don't worry. If you follow me from now on, I guarantee that you will eat and drink well. You will do whatever you want. Tan Tan patted his chest. I have rich experience in the Jianghu. I can't be wrong. Master Tan nodded like a chick pecking at rice. After a round of drinking, both of them looked drunk because they didn't deliberately use their martial arts to evaporate the alcohol. Come. Let's drink again. Both of them were the kind of people who didn't know the depth of the situation. They continued to drink. After a short while, they were already dead drunk. Little Ningning, if you follow me from now on, your life will be so wonderful and so splendid. Tan Tan was tongue-tied. Naturally, his words were getting more and more out of tune and incoherent. I must see it well. Yao Ningning held her head and looked over. Tan Tan's head had already become 3 heads, swaying back and forth. Wait a moment. Let's find my senior brother first. My senior brother? He's a really amazing person. He's the #1 person in the heavenly layer. I'm at most #2. Tan Tan burped. Apart from his looks being a little worse than mine and not being as handsome as me, everything else is better than me, #1 in the world. Really, your senior brother, is so powerful? Yao Ningning asked subconsciously. She kept nodding. She tilted her body. Of course. Following my senior brother will be infinitely exciting, infinitely wonderful, infinitely. Tan Tan was very proud. Then, what is your senior brother's name? Tell me, let me worship him too. He, is called Ichiang. Ichiang? Yes. Chapter 2001. The Grand Elder and the 2 elders couldn't take it anymore. It was already weird enough that he was called Tan Tan, but his senior brother was actually called Ichiang? This is really that and that and that. Your senior brother isn't as handsome as you? That's for sure. Even though Yao Ningning was already dead drunk, he still subconsciously shuddered. He wasn't as handsome as Tan Tan, which meant that he was uglier than Tan Tan. Then his image was really unimaginable. How was he compared to Chu Yang, who seemed to have been raped countless times? Junior brother had already reached such a stage, then how weird would senior brother be? Could he be a little more normal? Could he? The 2 elders of the demon race were also secretly deliberating in their hearts. Alright, where's your senior brother now? You should have a destination to look for him, right? Him he should be here. Tan Tan slurred. Even though he's running around, how could he hide from me he? A rumbling sound came from Tan Tan's chest. It sounded as if Tan Tan's stomach was rumbling when an outsider heard it. There was no lack of ridicule in it. Unexpectedly, Tan Tan's stomach suddenly bulged and he shouted, "Motherfucker! Drink!" The little movement in front of his chest instantly disappeared without a trace. The 2 elders of the demon race revealed a puzzled look at the same time. The 2 of them were finally drunk. You have to get a room. Stay here first. Tomorrow I'll take you to the martial world. Tan Tan's voice was muffled. Go find my senior brother and have endless fun. Okay. The Grand Elder felt dizzy and agreed repeatedly. It seemed that he didn't know what he was talking about. He was completely at a loss. Tan Tan walked a few steps and suddenly patted his head. He looked over with drunken eyes. Motherfucker. I almost forgot, you little bastard. You little bastard, you just said that you want to snatch my room? When this sentence came out, even the staff standing behind the counter fell to the ground with a face full of speechlessness. Oh my God, you only realized it now? What kind of mental illness is this? The 2 elders of the demon race were furious. His face was filled with black lines and he was about to step forward and beat this bastard to death. Little bastard? Little bastard? Is this how you scold our Grand Master? If the Grand Master were to do that, Then what would our demon empress become? What kind of mother is she? Hey hey hey. Yao Ningning's body swayed as she grabbed Tan Tan's arm. Then she righteously and sternly said, "Big brother, you must have misheard." You misheard? Was that even possible? That's impossible, right? Tan Tan swayed in confusion. You must have heard wrongly. It's absolutely possible. Grandpa Tai nodded with absolute certainty. So, you didn't say those words. Tan Tan was somewhat disappointed and frustrated. Why is my memory so bad? Definitely not. Yao Ningning's face was pure and innocent. Do you think I'm that kind of person? Do they look alike? It really doesn't seem like it. Those words really don't sound like something someone like you would say. After all this time, it turns out that I misheard. I'm sorry, brother, I've wronged, brother. He pointed to his own head. Once I'm drunk, I don't think clearly. What nonsense are you spouting? It's all right. No matter. No matter. Grandpa Tai nodded repeatedly. He expressed that he didn't mind. He really didn't mind. The two bowed to each other and prepared to return to their rooms to sleep. I'll send you off. I'll send you off. Let me send you off. They weren't done yet. The two experts who couldn't bear it any longer pulled each of them up the stairs. Grandpa Tai was still struggling as he shouted, "Big brother Tan? You're not allowed to sneak away tomorrow. I'll definitely follow you." Tan Tan had already started to snore. After much difficulty, the two super talents were finally thrown into their respective rooms. The two senior experts of the demon race were speechless. They could only weep. What should we do? What should we do now? You ask me? Who should I ask? How would I know what to do now? To be honest, he had lived for tens of thousands of years, but this feeling of helplessness that made him want to cry but have no tears to shed had never appeared before. But this time he had experienced it hundreds of times within a few days. Hundreds of times. What do you think is the origin of that person? Uncle who became cautious. Why are you still pretending at this time? You don't think that I can't sense it, right? Uncle Ma sighed. Because of this, we can't leave. We have to watch. You're right. I vaguely feel a faint devil energy from his body. It's faint, but it feels exceptionally real. Uncle who nodded affirmatively. I also have this feeling. But this strange and real devil energy is definitely not the energy of the extraterrestrial devil. Uncle Ma concluded. Yes. His appearance also seems a little magical. He looks 30% like a human and 70% like a ghost. It's more than magical. Moreover, this guy actually has a senior martial brother here. It's said that this senior martial brother is even worse than him. I don't know what he's up to. He must have a major conspiracy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have deliberately approached Tai Tan. Moreover, he would always target Tai Tan's weak points. If he hadn't put in a lot of effort in advance, he wouldn't have done this. That's right. After putting in so much effort, who would believe that he doesn't have a conspiracy? Immediately report this matter to the Demon Empress. All right. But don't be too rigid. Leave some leeway. I think Tai Tan really cherishes this person. Leave some leeway in everything so that we can meet again in the future. That's reasonable. Let's wait and see for now. I believe that no matter what happens, it won't be to the point where we, the two saints, can't handle it. That's natural. However, Tai Tan's idea of roaming the martial world must be dispelled. There are too many variables. That's right. However, the final decision still needs to be made by the Demon Empress. Sigh. Once this matter is spread, I reckon we'll be skinned alive by the Demon Empress. This is something that can't be avoided. Who asked us to have such a duke? The communication jade flickered, and the news here was sent back. Looking at Tai Tan, who was sleeping soundly on the bed and reeking of alcohol, the two of them were speechless. At this moment they were already in tears. The news on the other side was quickly sent back. The communication jade flashed and a few words appeared. It was the work of the Demon Empress. This is a good opportunity. Let him suffer a little, and he will know the hardships of the world. It's fine as long as we control the scale. The two of them were dumbfounded. What the hell? What kind of mother is this? They thought that the Demon Empress had received such shocking news. She would definitely let her son go back immediately. How did it become? It's good for him to suffer a little. The problem is, if Tai Tan really suffers a loss, what should we do? How should we control the scale? How can we control it so accurately, especially when we're roaming the martial world with such a weirdo? In the Empress Palace. The Demon Empress sighed helplessly. 2 fingers rubbed the space between her eyebrows and she muttered, then I'll have to take over Demon Emperor Heaven in the future. If I don't go through some training, how can I do it? But, Chu Yang calmly looked at the destroyed houses not far away from him. His heart was so angry that it felt as if it was about to explode. For the sake of stability, all of them lived separately. Those who lived here. They were Chu Yang's two subordinates. But the situation now was very obvious. They must have been discovered by Mo Yuntian's pursuers. After a battle they died. 2 people died. They didn't say the whereabouts of their other companions. This result made Chu Yang even more furious. Chu Yang was sure. His disguising skills were unparalleled in the world. After he changed his appearance, it was very difficult for others to recognize his true appearance. But this wasn't absolute. It was like saying that no matter how he disguised himself, he couldn't hide from those few people. Mo Qingwu, Tai Budian, Wu Qianshan, Tan Tan, Meng Chaoran, and others. Those were his closest relatives who were so familiar with him that he couldn't be more familiar with them. Perhaps as long as their eyes met slightly, no matter how he disguised himself, it would be futile. If his disguising skills weren't seen through, but he was still discovered by the enemy and died, then it meant one thing, a very serious thing. The people who came with Mo Yuntian and the others this time must be familiar with these people, and they must be very familiar with them. Or their senior and junior brothers. Or their masters and uncles? Only these people who were extremely close to them, could see through Chu Yang's disguising skills and see through their true appearances. But now, these people whom they regarded as extremely close to were the biggest accomplices in harming their lives. If this inference is true, then people from Mo Yuntian and the other 2 super sects have already arrived at Lone Bamboo City. Chu Yang had such an understanding in his heart. I just don't know if these sects have any connections with Mo Yuntian's army? Have they joined forces? Whether or not they have, things are developing in a tricky direction. Then his body dissipated like smoke and quickly left the scene. The people from the sects are already here. Everyone think about what we should do. Bai Yu Chen's face was a little pale. In the sect he originally belonged to, Bai Yu Chen's status was extremely high, and he was already the number 3 figure. This time he was the leader who led the disciples to explore the ruins. However, he never thought that when he met his former fellow disciples again, they would actually become enemies. The other people's faces were also pale. Of course, they were sincerely convinced by Chu Yang and treated him with sincerity. However, what about the sects that had nurtured them in the past? What should they do? If there was some hesitation before, there was no more now. The reason was simple. Once they arrived, they found the other 2 people and killed them without hesitation. This was already a kind of attitude, a kind of declaration. They and their former sect were already irreconcilable, and their standpoints were clear. Chapter 2002. But, since they are heartless, don't blame us for being heartless. No one was the first to say it. Although everyone was thinking of this sentence, but to really say it out loud required courage. Other than courage, it also required the recognition that there was no turning back. Over there were still clans, relatives, parents, brothers. Once they really did that, they would be completely isolating themselves from the past. Perhaps they would not have the chance to touch it for a very, very long time, or even in this lifetime. This was undoubtedly a heavy spiritual burden that no one was willing to bear. It had nothing to do with whether they could bear it, it was just that they were not willing to bear it. However, if he didn't resist, it would be equivalent to giving away his life for nothing, giving it away to someone else. And, since they were already here, then unless they never showed their faces, as long as they showed their faces, there was a possibility of meeting them. Once they met, there was only death. The 2 brothers who died outside were already the best proof. Up till now there were only 30 people left. Everyone had an obscure expression and did not say a word. Elder Bai, is there any contact between the sect and the Moyuntian soldiers? Is it possible? Chu Yang asked implicitly. Logically speaking, it should not be. Bai Yu Chen's guess coincided with Chu Yang's. Chu Yang nodded slowly. Now is the time for them to redeem themselves. If they can't capture or kill us with their own hands, they will also be in trouble. Bai Yu Chen took a deep breath and said, therefore, under such circumstances, they will be able to redeem themselves. There is basically no possibility that they will inform the soldiers. Because that means they have lost the chance to redeem themselves. Everyone nodded. But, they are really too familiar to us. Che Shuchu's words made Chu Yang sigh. And, everyone who is related to us is under their control. This is where the fundamental problem lies. Che Shuchu sighed deeply. We are afraid of breaking the vases. Chu Yang's expression was calm. He said, Speaking of this, it is not a problem for me. Tell me their appearance and strength. Let me do this. You said that you are all too familiar with them, but they are not strangers to you either, right? As long as you don't do it yourself, they have no reason to harm your family. Moreover, they don't have any evidence. Chu Yang said in a heavy voice, since that's the case, I'll deal with them first. Blindly waiting is just like sitting and waiting for death. There was no way out. If they were destined to kill, then let me do it myself. Bai Yuchen looked haggard. She opened her mouth to say something, but in the end she closed her mouth. According to Chu Yang, it seemed to make sense, but in reality it was just deceiving oneself. By pointing out the identities and origins of those people, I'm basically guiding Chu Yang to send them to hell. What's the difference between this and doing it myself? However, as Bai Yuchen's mind raced, a few other thoughts surged. It was true that she had many good brothers in the sect, and she also had a few brothers whom she loved dearly. However, since these people had come here, it meant that they had already made it clear that they were her enemies. Among the two people who had been killed, one of them was an old friend of his. The people he had mentioned were undoubtedly acquaintances as well. If they weren't acquaintances, other than the people in his heart, no one else would have been able to recognize him. Only those who were the most familiar with them could possibly see through their true identity. Then if they met her, what would they do? Would they let her off? Thinking of this, Bai Yuchen's entire body turned cold. The answer was obvious. Absolutely not. Both sides had clear standpoints. What was she hesitating for? It was already extremely rare that Chu Yang was willing to do it for her. She really shouldn't be hesitating here. The biggest benefit of me doing it is that your family in Moyun Sky will not be implicated. Because, from the start till the end, all of you did not show up. Chu Yang said lightly. Bai Yuchen felt ashamed. Everyone also lowered their heads. Yes, Chu Yang didn't do this to deceive himself. Instead, he was leaving a way out for himself. Elder Bai, how's your arm? Chu Yang asked with concern. The time is not ripe yet. Bai Yuchen smiled bitterly. Chu Yang grunted and did not say anything. An injury like a broken arm was not an injury that could not be healed for a high-level martial artist. According to Bai Yuchen's cultivation, she could have regrown her broken arm long ago. But because of the previous fierce battles, her vitality was greatly damaged, and the damage to her body was even more severe. It was inevitable that her vitality would be insufficient in a short period of time, and it would take time to regrow it. This kind of thing could only be done when one's vitality was abundant. But now, Chu Yang only had 2 heavy pills left, and he still had to prepare for emergencies. The spring of life was all gone, and the rest of the elixirs were basically all in the tribulation space. There was nothing he could do about it, and he could do nothing about it. After saying a few words, Chu Yang took the recorded information and slowly walked out. At the very least, the new defectors could not show their faces in the short term. Once they were recognized, the risk would be too great. Not only would their lives be in danger, as long as one of them did not keep his mouth shut and was interrogated, then they would all be wiped out. Chu Yang did not dare to take the risk of causing such serious consequences. As for now, at least the people of the 3 big sects had confirmed that these people were hiding in Lone Bamboo City. So, the people of the 3 big sects were bound to gather in Lone Bamboo City. There were at least a few thousand experts in this group of people. How could he fight against them? Could he only rely on himself? Even if his cultivation had improved greatly, and he was confident that he was the number 1 person in the celestial being level, he was still alone and could not win against so many. There was no chance of winning if he attacked head-on. Chu Yang frowned and thought of a countermeasure. He walked into his room and thought carefully with a heavy face. After a long time, he still could not come up with a good countermeasure. Whenever he thought of the sad faces of Bai Yuchen and Che Shuchu and the other 30 people, that kind of indescribable heartache, Chu Yang's heart was very heavy and also very angry. The people who were searching for them. It could be said that Bai Yuchen and the others thought that they were the closest to him. This kind of naked betrayal, this kind of undisguised blow, people who had not experienced it would really find it hard to understand. Those people might have their own high-sounding reasons. For the sake of the sect, for the continuation of the bloodline. For the sake of many, many principles. All in all, saying it out loud was just an honorable. But it was undeniable that they were coerced to kill their own brothers. Even to kill their own masters, their own disciples. And the cause was just a mistake. It was even a mistake that was not made by their own people. Just for the sake of revenge for a scum? Chu Yang pondered for a long time and finally made up his mind. Since it was destined to be unavoidable, it would not be him and the others who would be killed. It would be the enemies who would be slaughtered. Then he would be the one to wield this butcher's knife. That night, Chuyang was dressed in black and masked. Behind the mask was a completely changed appearance. Like a ray of light, he quietly flashed out of the window. Galloping in the night wind, the cold wind blew in his face. Chuyang felt a long-lost throbbing. It seemed that it had really been a long time since he had assassinated someone like this. And an inn that was not very large. A few people from Iron Sword Sect, one of the 3 super sects of Ink Cloud Sky, were discussing in a room. For the time being, we have not found the whereabouts of Bai and I. We also have not found any traces of the others. A person said softly. Bai Yuqin, the former number 3 figure of Iron Sword Sect, the elder of these people, had actually become Bai and I in their mouths. And they said it so matter-of-factly. So, only the Frost Sect has found the 2 traitors of their sect? We in Ghost Realm did not find anything? Yes, Ghost Realm's people also did not find anything. This is simply nonsense. There are no Ghost Realm's people here. What can they find? Wuxia? That's true. But the current plan is to find the whereabouts of Bai and I and the others as soon as possible and end this matter quickly. Use their heads to report. Only in this way can we appease Sky Emperor's anger and protect our Iron Sword Sect. Otherwise, once Sky Emperor is furious, it will not be so easy to bear. Our Iron Sword Sect is a super sect in the eyes of others, but in Sky Emperor's eyes, we are not as strong as an ant. How would we not know? But currently Bai and I and the others are hiding very well. What can we do? If we really cannot find them, we must definitely not find them. We must find them. The situation now is very obvious. Either they die or we die. From tonight onwards, instruct everyone to secretly check every room, focus on the appearance of the people inside, confirm and check one by one. Yes, I've checked and made a mark. Sift through the entire city. Don't miss a single person. If we do this, will we offend people we do not need to offend? We can't care if we can't catch them. The entire sect will be gone. Are you still afraid of offending people you do not need to offend? Yes. I know my mistake. Before first elder and second elder arrive, you must check clearly. Yes. At this moment there seemed to be some kind of muffled voice outside the door. Although the voice was very low, the group of people here were all experts and they were instantly alert. These people were a small team of Iron Sword Sect, or rather, the Vanguard. It was also the second day of their arrival in Lone Bamboo City. Although they were not the main force, the overall strength of this small team of more than 30 people was not bad. The cultivation of the weakest was at the beginner level of Saint. Naturally, their alertness was very high. What's going on over there? The leader asked in a low voice. There were only 7 or 8 people in the room, and they were all high-ranking people with a certain amount of power. Outside, there should be more than 20 people distributed in various rooms, or in charge of security patrol. This question was naturally directed to the people outside. However, he did not receive an answer from anyone. The night wind whistled, and although everyone was in the room, they could not help but feel their hair standing on end. They were instantly enraged. What are you? What right do you have to interrogate us like we're criminals? Could it be that you really think you're going to beat us? Kill him. A cold light shot out from the leader's eyes. The 7 of them roared as they raised their weapons and attacked at the same time. You're courting death. That person chuckled. His black figure swayed as he walked forward step by step, facing the saber light and sword shadows. It was as if he was taking a leisurely stroll in the park, completely not putting him in his eyes. Then, a beautiful sword light suddenly lit up in the dark night. It was like a beautiful meteor, sharp as if it was going to tear the world apart. The next moment, that black-clothed man had already arrived in front of the leader. He held a shining sword in his hand and pointed it at the leader's throat. Tell me. Your name, your position. Behind the black-clothed man, everyone's body was trembling and motionless. Then, one by one they fell down. Blood quickly dyed the ground red. The late autumn wind blew. The temperature of the flowing blood quickly dropped and cooled on the ground. The leader looked at the black-clothed man with eyes that were about to split open. Suddenly, he laughed bitterly and fiercely moved forward. Although the black-clothed man sensed it, he had no intention of retracting his hand. He looked at the leader's throat with unusual coldness. The tip of the sword immediately pierced deeply into his throat and blood gushed out. The leader's body spasmed as he stared at him. There was a trace of ridicule in his eyes. Do you want to know? I won't tell you. I won't tell you even if I die. Not bad. I didn't expect there to be so many heroes in the super sect. Today is an eye-opener. The black-clothed man looked coldly at the tip of the sword that had just been pulled out. This way, I can at least retain some respect for you. The black-clothed man's figure rushed to the sky. In a flash he was already gone. This night was destined to be a night of killing. A night of bleeding. In just one night, nearly 1,000 Jianghu people were killed. Either in the inn or in the rented houses or on the road or in the brothel. Everyone's body was not cleaned up. They just died there. Early the next morning the entire lone bamboo city was suddenly in an uproar. Suddenly more than 1,000 Jianghu people were killed. This kind of explosive news was absolutely shocking. Not to mention, among the dead people, there was a top master of the celestial being level. The fourth elder of the ghost realm had died here in such a baffling manner. Everyone who knew the identity of the dead people was not only shocked, but also terrified. What on earth happened that caused so many people to die at the same time? Moreover, looking at the symptoms of death, it seemed that it was done by the same person. What kind of crazy butcher was this to be able to kill so many experts in one night? For a moment, everyone was in danger, afraid that the nameless butcher would come for them. At this moment, outside the south gate, a group of people came from afar. A figure came out of the city like a meteor and greeted them, saying a few words. The group of people abruptly stopped in their tracks. Their faces instantly turned ugly. We have less than 400 people in Lone Bamboo City, and more than 350 of them died? The rest is less than 10% of the total? The leading old man with an aquiline nose frowned and asked. Yes. The messenger's face was pale. The reason why we were able to survive was because we lived in a relatively secluded place. Furthermore, we did not have time to contact anyone else. That was why we were able to survive. If we had contacted anyone, I'm afraid we would have. The dead were all killed by sword wounds? Yes. The aquiline nose old man thought for a moment. Enter the city immediately. I want to see everyone's fatal wounds. At this moment, a ray of light suddenly appeared as if it was flying from the sky. Under the bright sun, it whistled and in an instant, it became a storm that could sweep the sky and the earth. There's no need to enter the city to see. You can also see it from here. You can see it very clearly. The price is the lives of those who stay here. A cold voice said. Then the sword light whistled by. The aquiline nose old man was shocked by the sudden change, but he quickly regained his composure and shouted, How dare you? He quickly drew his sword to meet the attack. But the attacker had already rushed into the crowded group from the side. The magnificent sword light suddenly spread out. In an instant, the whole world was filled with the magnificent sword energy, and the air seemed to be cut into pieces. Cries of alarm and screams could be heard incessantly. Ah! Open your eyes and watch carefully. We'll have fun when you enter the city. The aquiline nose old man had just risen into the air on his sword. The figure had already passed through the crowd like a gust of wind, and turned into a ray of light under the sun. It disappeared into the horizon, and there was no trace of it. It came suddenly and left carelessly. Only the extremely arrogant ear-piercing laughter was still echoing in the morning wind, lingering in the air. The aquiline nose old man was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He roared, Bastard! A moment ago the group was very orderly, but now, with a chisel action, a passage of 3 feet wide and hundreds of feet long was opened. In this passage there were broken limbs and bodies everywhere, dripping with blood. There were also a few heads on the ground. In the pool of blood they continued to roll slowly. The entire official road was now stained with blood, soaked in it. It was only a short moment from start to finish. When they thought that it was the safest, when they were the most unguarded, when all of their people were gathered, they were brutally and unreasonably chiseled by the other party. The morning sun in the sky was witnessing this cruel and bloody process. The executioner who had been killing for an entire night actually did it in broad daylight. He did not stop his killing footsteps. In just a short moment, not even 5 breaths of time had passed. More than 150 people had already died under that one sword strike. What a ruthless person. What a killer move. That poisonous sword. The aquiline nose old man could not help but tremble all over. He was so angry that he was about to go crazy, but he was also so scared that his back was cold. This sword was really like a ghost and a demon. It was completely the power of a sword, or rather, the power of a move. It pierced through the whole group on his side and even had the strength to fly away. What kind of sword was this? What kind of move was this? And who was that person? This sword strike seemed to have deliberately avoided him, who was the strongest, and charged towards the group while avoiding the strong and striking the weak. However, the aquiline nose old man asked himself, What would the result be if I was caught off guard and encountered this sword? Thinking of this, he could not help but shudder. Perhaps, with his cultivation at the peak of the celestial being level, he could avoid death, but serious injury or even disability was absolutely unavoidable. His life might even be in danger. What about the other party? The other party had taken the initiative and had the advantage of a sneak attack. His moves were superb, and his cultivation had also reached the celestial being realm. Under such favorable conditions, as long as he didn't continue to fight, even if he couldn't escape unscathed, he would at most suffer some light injuries. The other party would at most be slightly injured, but he would at least be seriously injured or even killed. Thinking about it, he was inexplicably scared. Chapter 2004. Bu Luqing sneered and said sarcastically, "People like you will never understand such feelings." The Dharma Supreme laughed involuntarily, his eyes filled with reminiscence. He shook his head and sighed. "If I wasn't a sexual lover, I wouldn't have become one of the tribulations." Haha, he laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "But that was a long time ago. I am no longer one now." He murmured softly again. Buzuitsui. Lieni. He kept murmuring this name. The pain between his brows appeared again and again, as if he was enjoying this pain. Finally he heaved a long sigh. "I finally tasted this feeling again." He sighed sorrowfully. "Back then, I also had this unforgettable experience." Then he stopped murmuring and shook his head as if to shake off this inexplicable emotion. He laughed involuntarily and said, "I see. I see." I searched through his memories and kept feeling that something was missing, but I couldn't find a clue. There were only 3 words that occupied a lot of his memories, and that was Buzuitsui. I searched through all the experts in the continent and still couldn't find out who this Buzuitsui was. I didn't expect that you would jump out today. Buzuitsui, haha. What a good name. You finally admitted it. Bu Luqing looked up to the sky and howled. 2 streams of hot tears rolled down his usually cold and emotionless eyes. He just stood there and howled towards the sky. His voice was filled with boundless desolation, sorrow, and extreme sorrow that couldn't be concealed in the slightest. Anyone who heard it couldn't help but want to cry. At this moment, feeling Bu Luqing's desolate state of mind, Chuyang bit his lips tightly. Wu Qianshan also burst into tears. The Dharma Supreme smiled and said with his hands behind his back, "That's right. So what if you admit it? Bu Luqing, what can you do?" "I don't want to do anything. I just want to seek justice for my brother." Bu Luqing looked up to the sky and let the tears roll down his face, but he didn't wipe them away. "Let the heavens bear witness. Let the earth bear witness. Bear witness to my brother's injustice. Bear witness to my revenge for him." "Ha! Revenge?" The Dharma Supreme laughed contemptuously, as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. Bu Luqing let out a low sigh. "Yes, revenge." The atmosphere suddenly froze. Both of them were about to make a move. The Dharma Supreme sighed. "Bu Luqing, brother Bu, since you have such a friendship with Dongfang Badeo, then it's not strange for you to see through me. But why are you so sure that I'm the robber? I've never suspected that you were a kidnapper. It's just that, 100 years ago Wu Jueqing suddenly appeared. After Wu Jueqing appeared, the first thing is to charge into law enforcement city and kill the Dharma Supreme." Bu Luqing said, "I want to kill you, but you didn't die in the end. This shouldn't have happened." Since Wu Jueqing has decided to make a move, why should he give up now? With his hatred for the Tribulation Sword Master, how could he let go of the Dharma Supreme, who was the Tribulation Sword Master's greatest trump card? And he was clearly no match for Wu Jueqing. But you survived. I've been puzzled for 100 years. Until recently, when Feng and you betrayed the law enforcement city, and you made it clear that you wanted to deal with the Calamity Sword Master, I had a guess. Bu Luqing's eyes were burning. So Wu Jueqing didn't kill you. It's not that you changed your mind, but because you're on the same path as him. But even if you're on the same path, Wu Jueqing might still kill you. The poison doctor from back then would only show mercy to those who he felt were in the same situation as him. To take the next step of cooperation. So you have nothing to fear now because you have Wu Jueqing behind you. Bu Luqing's voice became heavier and heavier. So you must be a kidnapper. But I don't know, are you from 20,000 years ago? Or the tribulation from 30,000 years ago? The Dharma Supreme listened with a smile. With a slight smile, he said, "But why don't you guess that I'm from 40,000 years ago? If you're from 40,000 years ago, Wu Jueqing won't even fight with you. If you're from 50,000 years ago, Wu Jueqing won't be your match. So you only have 20,000 or 30,000 years to choose. Bu Luqing asked softly, who exactly are you? The Dharma Supreme smiled. It's not important who I am. What's important is today's battle. Bu Luqing, if you're done you can make your move. The winter night is cold and chilly. In this wilderness it doesn't taste good. Bu Luqing's pupils contracted. He said word by word, I just want to ask you one last question. The Dharma Supreme frowned. I also want to ask you something. 13,000 years ago you already knew that I was a fake. Then what have you been doing for the past 13,000 years? He smiled mockingly. Why didn't you come to avenge your good brother? Bu Luqing said solemnly, then do you know why I fought with Ning Tianya for more than 10,000 years? Do you think people like us really care about being number one in the world? It was Ning Tianya who stopped you? The Dharma Supreme laughed. Looks like the next time I see Ning Tianya I must have a good drink with him. Bu Luqing said indifferently, Ning Tianya always believed that everything that happens has its own reason. Since the Dharma Supreme has been switched, then the Tribulation Sword Master should be the one to deal with it. But I don't agree. And you have always lived in seclusion, so I didn't have much of a chance. Now, I came to the medicine banquet this time because although you never showed up in the previous medicine banquets, I knew that you would definitely come this time because Moon Breeze betrayed you. Therefore they will definitely destroy the medicine banquet. Other than you, no one can stop the two of them. Therefore you will definitely come. And Ning Tianya has already been sent out by me. Therefore my real purpose for coming this time is to fight it out with you. Bu Luqing said solemnly, to avenge my brother. Although 13,000 years have passed, my brother still needs an explanation. As long as my brother needs an explanation, not to mention 13,000 years, even if it is 100,000 years, I will give it to him. He said word by word. An explanation. After coming here, I found out that you have modified Badeo's body into innate spirit meridians. Your strength is improving by leaps and bounds at any time. I don't deny that I am also worried that if I let you go on like this, I won't be able to kill you. Bu Luqing spoke frankly about his misgivings. The Dharma Supreme laughed involuntarily. So what you mean is you can kill me now? Bu Luqing said coldly, I can't kill you but I can. Words have no proof, the outcome will be decided with my sword. The Dharma Supreme was silent for a moment before he said, you wanted to ask me the last question just now, so ask it quickly. After you are done, I will send you to reunite with your brother. I want to ask you, is Dongfang Badeo still alive now? Bu Luqing took a deep breath and asked solemnly, when the spirit enters the body it can be suppressed, eliminated or obliterated. I want to ask, which one did you use? The Dharma Supreme smiled strangely. What do you think? Tell me, do you think I would still have such an obsession? The light in Bu Luqing's eyes disappeared. He closed his eyes and his chest rose and fell. He took a deep breath and exhaled. When he opened his eyes, the look in his eyes became more and more fierce. He nodded heavily with an unforgettable hatred and said word by word, good. Very good. Both of them stopped talking. However, a terrifying aura began to gather and surge in the mountains and valleys. The next moment, Bu Luqing shouted, Badeo. Only the east. Then, with a strike of the sword, a thunderclap suddenly sounded in the air. An incomparably domineering aura was released with this strike of the sword. All the trees in the mountain forest leaned back neatly at this moment. The strike was brilliant and domineering. Bu Luqing stood in the air, as if he was going to accept the worship of the whole world. He was fierce and arrogant. Dharma Supreme. The strike shall be called Dongfang Badeo. Bu Luqing shouted. The sword light was like a dragon falling from the sky. I am avenging my brother. My first strike shall be my brother's name. The sword light fell. Since you want to be domineering, then I shall be domineering with you. The Dharma Supreme smiled and took a step forward. This step, as if the ground had shrunk, he was in front of Bu Luqing's sword light and punched out. A simple punch. It did not even have any momentum. It hit the sword light fiercely. A domineering strike, a domineering punch. The sword light and the punch hit each other fiercely. The sword light seemed to have solidified and stopped in the air. The Dharma Supreme's fist also seemed to have frozen in the air, just above the sword light. His black sleeves slid down lightly, revealing his fair wrist. Bu Luqing was in the air, holding his sword with one hand. His hair was facing the sky, dancing in the wind. The Dharma Supreme stood on the ground and punched out. He maintained this posture, his long hair fluttering violently behind him. This strange posture only lasted for half a breath's time. Both of them grunted at the same time and Bulioching's body flew backward violently. The long sword in his hand turned into a shooting star and disappeared without a trace in an instant. The Dharma Supreme arched his body and retreated backward as fast as lightning. However, one could clearly see that as the Dharma Supreme retreated, his feet first sank into the ground, then his calves, then his thighs, waist, upper body and the rest of his body. He retreated in this manner, but the ground went from shallow to deep, suddenly plowing a deep gully with his body. By the time he retreated halfway, this gully had already become a canyon. The stone walls on both sides were like mud, rolling out in opposite directions. This retreat was a full 270 feet. It was as if a person had used his own body to carve out a huge canyon that was a few hundred feet long and hundreds of feet deep. This exchange was also a head-on clash where both of them used their full strength to test each other's strength. It turned out to be a draw with no one gaining the upper hand. When the Dharma Supreme stood still, he had already become a small black dot. Zi Sheqing deliberately tore the space apart to let Chu Yang and Wu Chanshan see the Dharma Supreme's appearance. His face was slightly distorted as he raised his hand and looked deeply at his fist. On the edge of his fist, there was a clear white mark. Chapter 2005. Part 7 Chapter 310 Secrets of Tribulation, 4th Update. The Dharma Supreme smiled faintly and spoke lightly, with a sense of nostalgia and an inexplicable melancholy. And L.N.G. Webb. Back then, from the very beginning, Boss had given us countless elixirs and elixirs. Almost every few days, everyone's cultivation would soar by leaps and bounds. Big Brother said that we would rule the heavens together. We would complete our ultimate dream together. Zi Sheqing heard this and couldn't help but sigh. She scolded, "This is simply nonsense. Using elixirs and elixirs, isn't this purely harming people?" Chu Yang agreed. Which one of the tribulations wasn't a peerless genius? Using elixirs and elixirs was directly blocking the path of these people to collapse the heavens and break the void. However, if they didn't consider their ultimate future from the start and only wanted to use them to mend the heavens, then, this could be considered a way. It was just that it was really too cold and heartless. The Dharma Supreme continued to speak. We brothers gave up everything for each other. Including our lives, we could let the other party take it easily. Big Brother didn't say anything to us. At that time, we felt that even the gods couldn't make us brothers bow down and retreat. We advanced step by step, killing revered martial artists, defeating martial kings, killing martial emperors, killing martial saints and fighting supreme martial artists. Along the way we rose to fame. When we reached the upper three heavens, we advanced step by step, fighting one clan after another, from the weak to the strong. I can't even remember how many times we went through life and death, how many times we circled the gates of hell. Finally, all 10 of us reached the level of supreme martial artists. The big clans were unreasonable and were finally eliminated by us one by one. It was much easier than the Tribulation Sword Master now. In the entire heavens there weren't many supreme martial artists and above. As for supreme martial artists, there wasn't even one. The law enforcement officers and the Dharma Supreme led the crowd to help. At that time we were very tired every day, but we were very happy every day. We gathered together every day, discussing excitedly and paying attention to each other's changes. When our brothers were injured, we cursed and scolded them together. When our brothers won, we celebrated together. We were iron-blooded and all-powerful, coming and going as we pleased, killing as we pleased. That period of time was truly an extraordinary period of time. If time stopped at that moment, even if it was forever in that chaotic battlefield, it would still be the greatest happiness. But at that time, although we were happy, we were also very tired. Everyone wanted to sweep through the heavenly layer as soon as possible and complete their final Liduo. The 10 brothers wanted to stand at the peak of the world together. Then everyone could live a peaceful and happy life. Thus, in a spurt of energy, we finally annihilated the great clans. After that, the 10 brothers formed their own clans and recruited celestial layer experts. The entire celestial layer was finally peaceful. Everyone thinks that they can enjoy themselves. We have the final say in this world. 2 years later, Boss called us for a drink. When Boss called us for a drink, how could we not go? Of course, the brothers had to go. So, everyone went there excitedly. The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, as if he was telling someone else's story. His voice was very calm. However, this calmness contained an indescribable feeling. At this point, although he did not deliberately emphasize his tone, Chuyang also felt as if a chilly wind was blowing at the back of his head. It was chilly. Chuyang thought to himself, looks like something must have happened during this drinking session. That day after we went, boss said that our cultivation is too high. Damn it, we can't even get drunk now. All of us would subconsciously circulate our energy and the effects of the alcohol would be gone. How boring. So we might as well seal our cultivation and drink together. How boring would it be if we didn't get drunk? Thus everyone cheered. The heavenly layer is all ours, what danger can there be? It's just sealing our cultivation. We have done this many times before. Drinking like this is more enjoyable. Ah. The Dharma Supreme suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. That drinking session went on for 3 days and 3 nights. Everyone was drunk. When I woke up, I realized that I couldn't move. My cultivation as a 7th grade supreme martial artist couldn't be used at all. It was as if I was dead. I tried hard to turn my head and realized that the brothers were all lying down, but their eyes were all dazed. No one knew what had happened. At this time, boss walked in and said with a smile, "Brothers, you had a good time drinking this session, right?" Everyone was relieved at once. Boss came and saw that everything was fine. He even joked with us. Thus everyone laughed. Everyone laughed. I was laughing too. Aha. When boss said that, I remember that boss even said, "Boss, we had a good time drinking this session. Let's drink like this again next time." But why can't I stand up? Could I have been drugged? Ah. I was joking. Everyone knew that. But everyone still reprimanded me in unison, thinking that he had gone overboard. Yes, it is all thanks to boss that we are where we are today. How can we suspect boss? Even if it was a joke, it should not have happened. Even if he had such thoughts, he should be hacked into pieces. It shouldn't be. Eehee. The Dharma Supreme laughed coldly. When the Dharma Supreme said the sentence, should not have happened, even with Bu Liuqing's cultivation and willpower, he couldn't help but shudder. There was a strong sense of grief, self-mockery, anger, disbelief, the humiliation of being deceived, and a strong sense of unwillingness. All these emotions were intertwined together. Anyone who heard this sentence would feel their hair stand on end. Zi Sheqing called out to Chuyang twice, but Chuyang didn't respond at all. Chuyang's ears perked up as he listened to the Dharma Supreme's words. He was completely focused and didn't get distracted at all. He didn't hear Zi Sheqing's call at all. His entire mind was already immersed in this story. This was the first time Chuyang heard the story of the Tribulation Sword Master and his brothers. Hearing the Dharma Supreme's words, imagining the unreserved trust between brothers, absolute loyalty, respect and gratitude to boss, Chuyang was touched and suddenly thought of his brothers. My brothers are not inferior to you in any way. My brothers also treat me like this. But I am different from you. I won't treat my brothers like that. At that time boss said that I was right. You can't move now because I had drugged you. I had drugged you with soul poisoning powder. The Dharma Supreme laughed lightly and shook his head. Silence fell. Sigh. Soul poisoning powder. Even though Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme were archenemies, he couldn't help but sigh and didn't know what to say. Soul poisoning powder was a type of drug that was specially used against supreme martial artists. It was useless against ordinary people. When a person reached supreme martial artist level and above, a second primordial spirit would be formed. All the inner energy and cultivation would be used to support the growth of this second primordial spirit. Once the second primordial spirit grew, it would be the time to collapse the sky and shatter the void. The soul poisoning powder was used to immobilize the second primordial spirit. It was an extremely vicious drug. As long as the second primordial spirit was immobilized, a supreme martial artist would be at the mercy of anyone. Even a 3-year-old child could kill him as long as he had a knife in his hand. Bu Liuqing didn't expect that the Tribulation Sword Master would actually use soul poisoning powder on his brothers. Sigh. The Dharma Supreme also let out a long sigh and said bitterly, "Brother Bu, you and I may still be mortal enemies tomorrow, but what I said today is all true. The situation back then is still vivid in my mind. Every word that was said has been repeated hundreds of thousands of times in my ears. Everyone's tone, everyone's expression, even if I were to live for another 1,000,000 years, I will definitely not forget it." He looked at the starry sky and said, "It is lonely at the top." This sentence really makes sense. All these years I wanted to find someone to talk to, but I couldn't find anyone. Bu Liuqing nodded deeply and said, "I believe you." The Dharma Supreme chuckled and continued, "Back then when Big Brother said that, all of us were stunned. Our first reaction was that boss was joking. Second brother said, "Boss, what are you playing at? Quickly get us to stand up, we will give you a good beating." Boss shook his head and said, "I have a few words, a few things that I want to talk to you guys about today. I had no choice but to do this. I wanted to let you guys listen to me quietly." Therefore all of us said, "What, can't you just sit up and touch the bottom of the wine cup? You even had to restrain us, boss, you are too much." But until then we all knew that there was absolutely nothing wrong. Boss would never harm us. Even Diwu Cho-chang, who was the most resourceful among us, said, "I believe that what boss is going to say will make us all excited." The Dharma Supreme chuckled. Diwu Cho-chang. When Bu Luqing heard this name he was finally shocked and said, "You are one of the tribulations 30,000 years ago." The Dharma Supreme ignored him and continued, "Boss said, everyone knows that I am the Tribulation Sword Master and that my mission is to reform the heavens. However, there is one thing that you all don't know. The Tribulation Sword Master has another mission, which is to use the power of millions of dead souls to mend the heavens for 10,000 years. To ensure that the heavens will not collapse in 10,000 years." At that time, everyone was very excited and agitated, saying that this is a good thing. The merit is in the present and the benefits are in the future. How can we brothers be willing to be left behind? Although we have killed countless people, we all have a clear conscience. We are worthy of the world. Boss said. Boss said. The Dharma Supreme's voice trembled slightly and then returned to normal. He said, "Boss said, but this mission can only be completed by myself and I need your help. These 2 years, I have used a secret technique to collect the power of the dead souls outside and finally succeeded. Now, I only lack the souls of the tribulations." Then Boss looked at us and said, "Brothers, you are the tribulations. I will continue. Fifth brother, please wait for a while. Last night, I pulled another all-nighter and finished more than 3 chapters. And I wrote it very agitatedly. Now, I realize that there are too many mistakes. Please support me with your monthly votes." Chapter 2006. At this point, the Dharma Supreme should have paused for a moment, but he continued without hesitation. When Big Brother said this, the brothers immediately felt that something was amiss. They were all dumbfounded. Diwu Cho-chang laughed dryly and said, "Big Brother, you're not going to kill us, are you?" Big Brother said that I don't want to kill you. But I need your souls. Only your souls can mend the crack in the heavens. Diwu Cho-chang was silent for a moment. Then he said, "If we mend the heavens, what about you, Big Brother?" Big Brother said, "If I mend the heavens, the power of merit I obtain will be enough for me to break through the heavens and break through the void. At that time, I will naturally leave this world and enter another world to cultivate, or to work hard and start a new life. I heard that it is a paradise. You can have anything you want. Only those who have the merit to mend the heavens can enter." Big Brother said that your efforts are worth it. At this point, the Dharma Supreme finally fell silent. His throat trembled violently as he laughed bitterly. His laughter was hoarse. "Paradise?" Zi Sheqing sent a telepathic message to Chu Yang, puzzled. Chu Yang shook his head slowly. This was too strange. Chu Yang knew very well that there was no such thing as a paradise. Could it be that this Tribulation Sword Master was deceived by someone? But who could deceive this Tribulation Sword Master? Could it be the Sword Spirit? Chu Yang was deep in thought. His consciousness sank into the tribulation space. The Sword Spirit was still cultivating in seclusion. It could be seen that his body was becoming more and more solid. Chu Yang was puzzled. If there was such a thing, the Sword Spirit would definitely deceive him. But until now, the Sword Spirit had not mentioned it. Outside, the Dharma Supreme's hoarse voice sounded. His voice was still indifferent, but it could be heard. There was a hint of reluctance. At this time the old fool asked, "Big Brother, when you go to the new world, can I still follow you?" I can't bear to leave you." Ha 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 ha. At this point, the Dharma Supreme suddenly laughed maniacally, laughing so hard that he bent over. Tears streamed down his face. He had always been calm and composed. Even when he was telling such a tragic story, such a cruel betrayal, he was still so calm that it was scary. However, when he mentioned the words of this little, he suddenly laughed crazily with a sad heart. Wu Qianqian couldn't help but shed tears as she listened to his miserable laughter. When the time comes, I still can't believe that boss would harm him. To think that you can't bear to do so and still want to follow him. To think that you still want to. The Dharma Supreme laughed maniacally as blood spurted out from his mouth. He wiped it off with his hand and continued to laugh uncontrollably. He laughed and trembled as he looked at Bu Luqing. Gritting his teeth, he didn't care about his image at all. He twisted his neck and gritted his teeth as he said stubbornly, "You have brothers? I have one too. I have one too. I have more than you. Do you believe it? Do you believe it?" "Ah. How can I not believe it?" Buluching sighed. "The feelings of tribulation have always moved the heavens and the earth. Part of the strength of the tribulation sword's master in mending the heavens is this feeling of not giving up even in life and death." The Dharma Supreme laughed out loud. He wiped away his tears. He burst into laughter. At that time all the brothers didn't say anything. Only Boss said, "Little, I'm afraid I can't bring you along." Little was very disappointed and said, "Why?" Boss said, "Because after I used your soul to mend the heavens, you would die. But I'm still alive. So I can't bring you along." Little was very disappointed then. Yes. You didn't hear wrongly. He was very disappointed. He wasn't afraid, he was just disappointed and said, "Boss, I can't bear to part with all of you." Boss said, "You don't have to be reluctant because all of you will die together." At this point the Dharma Supreme finally stopped. He was panting heavily, and beads of perspiration were slowly seeping out from his smooth forehead. When he was fighting with Buluching earlier, the sky was spinning and the earth was spinning, but he didn't sweat or pant heavily. However, at this moment he was panting heavily just by telling a story. We all fell silent. Then Diwu Cho-chang asked, "Boss, when did you know about this?" When this question came out, everyone's eyes lit up. "Time is too important." Boss said, "From the moment I obtained the first fragment of the Sword of Calamity, I knew about it." When he said that, all the brothers suddenly stopped talking. They were all panting heavily, very heavily. After a long pause, second brother asked a question. At that time, I remember very clearly that second brother seemed to have used all his strength to ask that question. He even stuttered a little and his voice was very trembling. He asked, "So, all these years you have been lying to us? You brought all the brothers to fight together, brought us to the heavens, just so you could use our souls to mend the heavens and then collect the power of karma to go to another paradise? All this time you have been lying to us and using us?" When second brother said that, all the brothers pricked up their ears. Although everyone already knew that this was a foregone conclusion, they still wanted to hear Boss say no. Because then, even if we died, we wouldn't be so sad. Boss sighed and said, "I also know that I have let all of you down, but I really want to go to that world. The temptation to me is too great. It's been hard on all of you to follow me for so many years, to serve me, to risk your lives for me, to do everything for me. But I have been lying to all of you and using all of you. I also feel very guilty. Really, I feel that I have let all of you down." When he said that, everyone was stunned. Then, at that time, I seemed to have heard the sound of my heart breaking very clearly. I cried. Before that, I only had happiness, only satisfaction and happiness. I had never cried before. But that day after hearing this sentence, I cried. I cried. Boss continued to say emotionally, "Second brother, for me, when the steel knife came slashing at you, you threw yourself on my back and blocked the knife for me, almost dying. Third brother, for me, you once tested the poison with your own body and was poisoned to the point that you couldn't even speak for half a year. Fourth brother, for me, you didn't hesitate to use yourself as a hostage and allowed yourself to be captured without a fight. You were slashed 10 times on your body and your blood almost ran dry, just to let me live, to let me escape. Fifth brother, for me, you divined the fate of the heavens and your hair turned white overnight. Sixth brother, I know that you like Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao is your childhood sweetheart, I also know that. That day, when I pretended not to know about your matters and pretended to be drunk and told you that I like Xiao Xiao, you immediately backed out and went to the brothel the next day. You didn't hesitate to break Xiao Xiao's heart to fulfill my wish and let her marry me. This caused you to be unhappy all your life and never marry. Even to carry on the family line, you only took in a foster. Seventh brother. Brothers, I will never forget all of your kindness to me. I am proud to have all of you. And touched. Really. Eldest brother recounted the merits of our brothers one by one. He spoke very emotionally and even shed tears. But at that time, I only felt a bone-chilling coldness in my heart. I don't know what they were thinking, but I think that since my heart had already turned cold, they may not be as warm as me. The Dharma Supreme grinned and laughed as if he was crying. If it were me, my heart would also turn cold. Our brothers have done so many things for you, risking their lives for you, risking their lives for you, giving up everything for you, giving up everything for you. We helped you from a nobody to the current master of the heavens, and you actually want to kill them without a second word. Moreover, you want to use the lives of our brothers to exchange for a bright future for yourself. Is this fucker still human? Moreover, You even used despicable means to take advantage of our brother's feelings to snatch someone else's fiancée. Bu Luqing couldn't believe that such a person actually existed in this world. There was only one thing that he was curious about. How did such a person become the master of Calamity Sword? How did he get the help of such hot-blooded men? How did he get such a sincere friendship? This was something that was completely unimaginable. Not only was Bu Luqing puzzled, Zi Sheqing and Wu Chanshan were also extremely puzzled. As the master of Calamity Sword, Chuyang was even more puzzled. This was too incomprehensible. To be able to do this, how deep must one's heart be to be able to deceive others for their entire life? Then eldest brother said, "Brothers, since you have already done so much for me, now I only ask you to do one last thing for me. Give me your souls and fulfill my wish. We will be good brothers for all eternity." Fuck. Bu Luqing couldn't help but curse. What kind of beast is this? The Dharma Supreme smiled faintly. When Bu Luqing got angry, the Dharma Supreme regained his usual calmness and said, "Eldest brother said it once." Seeing that the brothers didn't say anything, he continued, "Actually, I didn't let all of you down. I brought all of you up to the heavens and helped you build big clans. Do you know? Your grandchildren will live and reproduce in the heavens for 10,000 years. 10,000 years? What kind of clan can have 10,000 years of glory? Although I don't claim credit for all these, if all of you didn't become a tribulation, where would such an opportunity come from? What's more, when have you ever lacked my help in every step you took? When did all of you lack my elixirs? My heavy elixirs, each of you ate more than one, right? My incomplete heavy elixirs, each of you should have at least 100 of them, right? Those elixirs that can increase your cultivation were all given by me. If not for me, how could all of you reach 7th grade supreme martial artist at such a young age? This is enough for all of you to be proud of. Now I only want you to give up your souls. Why are all of you so quiet over such a small matter? In the past, when all of you risked your lives for me, it was much more dangerous than now, but all of you were willing to do it. Back then you could have died at any time, so why are all of you so unwilling now? Brothers, could it be that glory and wealth have made all of you change your minds? Hearing such shameless words, Chuyang couldn't help but want to vomit. I am still writing chapters, there are still more than 1,000 words to go. I want to ask my brothers, will there be a 10th chapter today? To be continued? Chapter 2007. He had betrayed his brothers and used them right from the start. Now he was saying that his brothers had changed their minds because of wealth and glory. This was utterly shameless. Bu Luqing was so angry that he panted and even rolled his eyes. 5/1/0. In the eyes of a righteous person like him, this was the most hateful thing in the world. The Dharma Supreme laughed coldly and said, "Back then I laughed coldly like this too. My brothers laughed coldly together because other than laughing coldly, we didn't know what else we could do or say. We didn't even have the energy to scold him." Big brother said, "Brothers, do you know that the Tribulation Sword Master has a mission but also a punishment? If I can't mend the heavens with you, my whole family will suffer the wrath of the heavens. Can you bear to see me die?" The Dharma Supreme said indifferently. When he said this, we all spat. Bah! Bu Luqing also spat. At that time, second brother said, "We were willing to risk our lives for you. But now it's not. Big brother, you are wrong. We brothers are willing to die for you. Not for anything else but for our brotherhood. You don't have to say anything. You just have to call us together and say that you now know of a new mission, which is to mend the heavens. If you can't complete it, your whole family will die. You just have to say this. Even if you are lying to us, I will immediately arrange my funeral and sacrifice my soul for Big Brother." At that time, second brother said, "I am not stingy and I am not afraid of death. I've been born so many times for you. I have long recognized you as my big brother. When the big brother is in trouble, it is normal for brothers to sacrifice their lives for him. But you shouldn't have lied to us and used us. In the end, you even forced us." At that time, second brother said, "If you say this, isn't it good that we are willing to sacrifice ourselves for you? Big brother, you have made a fool of yourself. Now that things have come to this, forgive me for not being able to comply." Well said. Bu Luqing clapped his hands and praised, "This second brother of yours is really something." The Dharma Supreme's face revealed a trace of pride and said, "Of course. Second brother's heroic spirit is unparalleled." "Then what did your boss say?" Bu Luqing asked. Boss said, "I've also considered it and I also believe that my brothers would be willing to die for me. However, firstly, I was a little worried. After all of you are now vassals with high statuses and power, so it is inevitable that your mentality will change. Once one of them disobeyed and the other started to agitate, I was afraid that I would give myself away. If you can't complete the mission, you'll be killed. So, it's better to control you first. You won't be able to resist. Wouldn't that be safer? At that time my second brother said, but even if you control us, you can just use us to mend the sky. Why do you have to tell us this before we die? At that time, second brother was in great pain and said, we didn't know anything, so it's fine if we died in a daze. But after knowing about this, don't you know how much our hearts hurt? Why are you like this? At this point, the Dharma Supreme paused. Bu Luqing was at a loss. So he said, that's right. In any case, he has the final say in everything. So, he could have just killed all of you directly. Furthermore, he had even tortured his brother for decades. How could he bear to do such a thing to his divine soul? What was his intention? The Dharma Supreme shook his head and smiled faintly. I knew that you wouldn't be able to guess the reason. At that time, other than Chaochu, the few of us could only guess. The others couldn't guess it either. I still remember that after second brother finished asking, Diwu Chaochu sighed and didn't say anything. Then what was the reason? Bu Luqing frowned and asked. He was really puzzled. He felt that this matter didn't make sense at all. At that time big brother said, this is the second reason I told you. After all, we have been brothers for so many years. If I were to kill all of you just like that, I would feel guilty and it would be easy for me to have inner demons. Then even if I were to go to paradise, I wouldn't be happy. That's why I want to tell you everything before you die. Bu Luqing was still puzzled. What? Could it be that after saying it, we would be able to avoid inner demons? That's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. The Dharma Supreme said, at that time Big Brother said that I had deceived all of you from the start and used all of you. Now I want to kill all of you. Don't you hate me a lot? Our brother's eyes were all burning and they nodded fiercely. I saw all 8 of them nodding and crying at the same time. Bu Luqing, you don't know the kind of people we are. We are all people who are decisive in killing and wouldn't even frown when a sword is pointed at us. There were a few people like second brother, old eighth and the rest. This was the first time I saw them cry. Do you know what kind of feeling that was? Bu Luqing sighed deeply. How heartbreaking that was. Each and every one of them was a man of steel. To be deceived and used for their whole lives. Even after death, they still had to let this person use their souls to achieve his goal. Yet they only found out right before they died and couldn't do anything about it. How aggrieved must they be? How much resentment must they have? At that time Big Brother said, that's right, I want all of you to hate me. The more you hate me, the happier I am. A violent look finally appeared in the Dharma Supreme's eyes, as if he was about to lose control of himself. However, he still controlled his voice with all his might, forcing himself to speak calmly. The more you hate me, the more justified I am in killing all of you. The less guilty I will feel, the less guilty I will feel, and the less guilty I will be, the less I will have inner demons. Since all of you hate me, then kill me. Since all of you want to kill me, then you are my enemy. I kill my enemy and use my enemy. What inner demons do I have to speak of? Boom. When the Dharma Supreme said this, Bu Luqing couldn't take it anymore. He struck out with his palm, causing dust to fill the air dozens of miles away. He said angrily, bastard, bastard, bastard. Son of AB***. There is actually such a person in this world. What is this? The Dharma Supreme laughed coldly and said, since ancient times, there have been 8 such bastards. The bastards have all succeeded. Now the 9th bastard is growing up. Hearing this, Zi Sheqing quietly nudged Chu Yang and said telepathically, are you such a bastard? Chu Yang was listening intently. He rolled his eyes at Zi Sheqing when he heard that. Bastard. Bastard. Bu Luqing muttered angrily. Suddenly he thought of his disciple Emo Qinggu. When he thought of Emo Qinggu, he thought of Chu Yang. He then remembered that Chu Yang was the first tribulation sword master. He couldn't help but be shocked. He thought, is Chu Yang such a bastard? However, no matter what, Little Wu likes him so much. It is too dangerous to be with him. I can't agree to it. I must tell Ning Qinya about this, and guard against it. When he thought of this, he suddenly thought of Dongfang Bideo and asked, since that is the case, all of you should be dead for sure. How did you survive? The Dharma Supreme glared at him as if blaming him for interrupting his narration. He didn't answer but continued to speak. When Big Brother finished speaking, all the brothers were filled with righteous indignation and couldn't help but scold. Diwu Chochang said, stop scolding. Big Brother has his own considerations. We should just support him and obey his arrangements unconditionally. Even if he wants us to use our souls to mend the sky for Big Brother, we should sacrifice ourselves. At that time everyone was stunned. They couldn't understand why Diwu Cho-chang would say that. Big Brother said, He Cho-chang is indeed scheming. You actually want to praise me and follow my lead, causing me to have an inner demon. Now it is useless to praise me and even more useless to hate me. Ah. Then Big Brother said, I am going to pack up and prepare to mend the sky with all of you. As brothers, if you have any unfulfilled wishes, you must tell me. I promise to fulfill them for all of you. Bu Luqing didn't know what to say. He just kept scolding, bastard. Bastard. At such a time he still calls us brothers and actually wants to fulfill your unfulfilled wishes. How ridiculous. Yes, ridiculous. We didn't speak at that time and didn't bother to speak to him. There were only 4 words in my heart at that time. I kept yelling, I am blind. I am blind. I am blind. I am blind. The Dharma Supreme had repeated the phrase, I am blind, over and over again for at least a dozen times. The more he said, the more pained and hateful his voice became. That kind of extreme frustration made Bu Luqing sigh repeatedly. At that time Big Brother waited for a long time. None of us spoke. Then he said, looks like all of you don't bother to ask for my help. Since that is the case, I am asking for trouble. Then he walked out. Everyone wanted to speak but was stopped by Diwu Cho-chang. Diwu Cho-chang said, Since we are all going to die, what is there to say or discuss? This is our fate. What can you do? With Big Brother's means, do you think he will let us escape? Everyone thought about it and stopped talking. Everyone was used to seeing life and death. It doesn't matter if we die. Although it is a little aggrieved, we can only blame ourselves for being blind and choosing the wrong person. Chu Yang sighed in his heart. This brother was really an iron-blooded man, a real man with a true temperament. Although he already knew that this Big Brother was a bad person and wanted to kill him, he still called him Big Brother. Maybe it was a habit and he couldn't change the way he addressed him? But no matter what, until now they had not said a single bad word. They suppressed all their emotions in their stomachs. After 8 hours, Diwu Cho-chang suddenly spoke and said hurriedly, Everyone listen to me. With his habit he must have been eavesdropping just now. But it has been so long he should have gone out. We don't have much time, so we can only take the risk. Everyone perked up. So this was Diwu Cho-chang's idea. The Dharma Supreme's tone gradually became agitated. Diwu Cho-chang said, We are dead for sure, but we cannot die in vain. It is too aggrieved to die like this, too unworthy of our illustrious reputation. I have a way to let one of us have a slight chance of getting out alive. I'm so tired. I will eat some food and write again. If everyone works hard, I will work hard. Your votes are my biggest motivation. First update 10 chapters. I will never go back on my words. To be continued. Chapter 2008. Part 7, Chapter 322, Revenge. Revenge. Everyone asked, What's the plan? Cho-chang said, Everyone knows the mind-linking technique. I believe everyone knows how to use it. Xie Kuan nodded. Kuan nodded, everyone nodded. Melancholy said hurriedly, We won't be sealed like this forever. If he wants to use our souls, he will have to extract them from our bodies. But after extracting them, even though they will only be our souls and have no attacking power, we will still be free for a period of time. Everyone looked at each other. Cho-chang continued, According to my guess, if he gets rid of us together, the place where he nourishes the sky should be a place. Moreover, we need to be sent to our respective positions together for this to work. Otherwise he won't do this. Cho-chang said, We happen to have one person. That means one of us must be in the middle position. I don't know who this person is. It could be you or it could be me. But it will be the spirit of one of us after all. Now, we only have a little time, and that is, the moment he sends us in, we will be out of his control. In this way, each of us will remember our own positions. Except for the one in the middle, the 8 people on both sides will try their best to transform their spirit power into the purest spirit power source in that short period of time and send it to the middle position. Try your best to send as much as you can. At that time, Cho-chang said, Since it's the spirit nourishing the sky, it needs the power of the spirit. If the spirit has power, it can't be destroyed. So, the person with the strongest spirit power will have a little chance of survival. We are trying our luck by doing this. I don't know if it will work, but this is our only chance. Hearing this, Chu Yang couldn't help but praise, Diwu is indeed worthy of his surname. He can actually think of such a plan at this time. Zi Shiqing also nodded. Anyone who had reached this point could only wait for their death. But this Diwu Chouchang obviously had a plan in mind. When the Tribulation Sword Master spoke, he should have thought of it. Otherwise he wouldn't be so organized. Diwu Chouchang was definitely a top talent in the world to be able to keep such a clear mind at such a moment. At that time, the brothers all said that no matter who this person was, as long as there was a slight chance that they could get out, as long as they could survive, they would avenge their brothers. No matter the cost. At that time Diwu Chouchang said, "Now don't talk. Focus on nourishing your souls and don't get angry." Once he was angry, his spirit would scatter, and he would not be able to provide any more help to his brother. Close your eyes. After that, we all closed our eyes and wholeheartedly stabilized the realm of our souls. Haha, at that time, although I didn't have any cultivation, I could feel that each and every one of my brothers was risking their lives. He had never fought so hard before. It was all for the sake of transferring the power of his spirit to his brother at that critical moment. All for the sake of that slim chance of survival. The Dharma Supreme said pitifully. His eyes were a little red and blood was flowing out of his mouth. However, this time he didn't wipe it away. He said in a low voice, as expected after waiting for a period of time, he came back and came to talk to us. However, none of us bothered with him. He also felt bored and used some medicine. After that, we all fainted. When we woke up again, we were already in a strange place. In the void, there was a strange sound and a mysterious cave entrance slowly appeared. After that, that bastard grabbed us without hesitation, destroyed our physical bodies with each palm strike and extracted our souls. We didn't say a word. In our last moments, we only had time to look at each other. At the last moment, Diwu Chouchang said something and his head was smashed into pieces. That sentence was, "Remember." Then that person killed us, gathered our souls together and threw them out with a swoosh. And I suddenly realized that I had entered the innermost cave entrance. At the moment when I entered the cave entrance, 8 waves of spirit power were transmitted over from 8 directions at the same time. At that time I could only try my best to capture them bit by bit. Those were the lives of my brothers. The lives of my brothers. The lives of my brothers. The Dharma Supreme calmed down, tears seeping out of his eyes. I didn't dare to waste any of the 8 waves of spirit power. Perhaps the heavens were on my side, allowing me to collect them and integrate them into my body. At that time I could feel the comfort and happiness of these spirits, as well as their expectations for me. After that I was attracted by a strange suction force and entered that strange space. I realized that there was a spirit that had long been shattered in there. There were only a few fragments left and I didn't know who it was. However, I knew that it was Elder Jie who had met the same fate as me. Of all the spirits that could die here, which one of them wasn't a good man? Which one of them wasn't an unyielding husband? However, which one of them didn't die with grievances? Weren't they deceived, used, betrayed and then killed by the person they trusted the most? The Dharma Supreme laughed bitterly. I was inside and couldn't get out. I could only stay inside and feel my spirit power being depleted bit by bit. I kept on cultivating my spirit power, but it couldn't make up for the loss. However, the loss was also extremely slow. Thinking about it, every spirit inside had to hold on for hundreds of thousands of years. Haha, what kind of day was that? My brother is also enduring the same torment. I don't know how much time had passed, but my heart felt empty. I knew that one of my brothers had completely disappeared. I had this feeling 8 times in a row. I knew that my brothers were all gone. Only I was still here. I had their power in me. I worked even harder to cultivate. I wanted to live, I wanted to take revenge. I wanted to live on for them. At that time, I had already depleted all my power of the origin and was only left with the spirit power that they sent over before they entered. It was them who supported me and didn't let me die. Finally, one day just when I felt that I couldn't hold on any longer, that cave suddenly opened. Then a spirit was sent in. Only then did I know that 10,000 years had passed. I took this opportunity to sneak out. I found a dark place that didn't see the sun all year round to cultivate my spirit. Once I started cultivating, I cultivated for thousands of years. However, it was very difficult to take over someone's body. It was almost impossible. Because even if it was an ordinary person, their spirit was still complete. You can't drive his divine soul out of his body, unless you killed him. However, after killing him, I still couldn't use it. Even if it was someone on the verge of death, I tried, but it didn't work. Finally, one day, I sensed a person whose spirit was missing. The Dharma Supreme raised his head and looked at Bu Luqing. It was Dongfang Badeo. At that time he had probably just deleted his memories. His spirit was missing a lot. This was my chance. However, he was still very strong at that time and I didn't have a chance. Once I was discovered by him, I was afraid that my spirit would be annihilated. So, I followed him secretly. Wherever he went, I followed. Finally, hard work paid off. He was a law enforcement officer and had a high cultivation. He often went out on missions to capture criminals. At that time, the three of them were competing for the position of the Dharma Supreme. It was based on his ability to enforce the law. He went to chase after a supreme being but was besieged. Although he managed to kill those people, he himself was also on the verge of death, unconscious. I took advantage of this opportunity to enter his body. The Dharma Supreme stared at Bu Luqing. Do you understand? Bu Luqing sighed. I understand. Brother Bu, if you were me, would you kill Dongfang Badeo, take over his body and wait for an opportunity to avenge your brothers at all costs? The Dharma Supreme asked solemnly. Yes. Bu Luqing took a deep breath and said, this vengeance must be avenged. I understand that you want to avenge your brothers. The Dharma Supreme said, but I also want to avenge my brothers. Do you understand me? I understand you. Bu Luqing's eyes gradually stood up. However, you are taking over my brother's body. Therefore, although I understand you, I still want to kill you. I understand. The Dharma Supreme chuckled and said indifferently, if you don't kill me because of my words, that would be really strange. Bu Luqing said, if you want to take revenge, you should go to that Elysium. Why did you come here instead? I can't go up. The Dharma Supreme said frankly, after I came out, I realized that Bastard's clan was already gone. I searched through the ancient books and couldn't find any clan of the Tribulation Sword Master. I hated it even more. Those guys must have ascended to heaven when one of them achieved the Tao. I really don't know about this. Bu Luqing was also puzzled. There were big clans in every generation, but why didn't he see any clan of the Tribulation Sword Master? Therefore, I could only stay and cultivate, preparing to rush to that world to take revenge. However, during this time I also wanted to eliminate all the helpers of the Tribulation Sword Master, such as the Dharma Supreme and the new Tribulation Sword Master. The Dharma Supreme smiled indifferently. His smile was filled with boundless murderous intent. I had just taken over his body and wasn't confident in controlling the law enforcement officers. I tried to trip the previous Tribulation Sword Master but still couldn't kill him. The fate energy of the Tribulation Sword Master was too strong. However, he wanted to destroy the bloodline of the Diwu clan that had been passed down till now, but I managed to save it. Now, although the Diwu clan is weak, it still exists. The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, his eyes revealing deep emotions. Jianghu finally understood. The Diwu clan was obviously a big clan during the previous Tribulation Sword Master's time. They were enemies of the Tribulation Sword Master, but they didn't die out. So this was the reason. Although the Diwu clan was a subsidiary of the Zhuge clan, they held great power. So this was the reason. 7th update. I'm working hard. 8th update. 10th update. Can there be one? Can the number 1 in the monthly votes fulfill my wish? Begging for monthly votes. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.